Greetings and what's up, Facebook family? I have an exciting night for y'all. I have a very exciting night. And I have a fascinating topic. And I can't wait to delve into this because, first of all, we have had many of people that are on my Facebook page that have been asking, if not begging, to have Sister Portia. Greetings, how are you? Sister Portia, Dr. Portia back. Greetings, welcome. And so I have her back because the first conversation that I had with Dr. Portia was so explosive and people enjoyed it so much that besides the things that she and I have been talking about in regards to collaboration, I said I definitely have to have her back. So without further ado, greetings and welcome everyone. Before I bring her in, thank you so much for joining us. We are definitely going to be having more and more of these conversations. And I definitely want to encourage you all to share this video when you have time, if you find that it's something of interest to you and that those who are on your friend list would enjoy. We definitely appreciate it. I know Dr. Portia has had so many people contacting her after our initial interviews last year. I think it was was it 2 hours? It might have been Connie that was 3 hours. However it may be. Hey sis, how you doing?
Hello.
Welcome. Looking fly, looking fabulous as ever.
Thank you. I so appreciate it.
So I have a topic, and I told her when I called her before I got on that I was not going to tell her what it was about, but that I wanted to pick her brain. And let's get into it. So the topic of this, as you know, my videos that I've been doing have been about leveling up, have been about high value woman, high value standards, and the movement that we have been all really enjoying in regards to women literally taking their lives into their hands and leveling up. So let me get into weight to pick your brain on this, sis, because there are so many facets to this and so many people are completely outraged by it. But I find it extremely fascinating and actually beneficial, especially if you want to consider, is this something that you would teach your own daughters or at least tell them about? So let me get on my glasses because I'm going to read this to you all. Now, there are several articles on the internet about this, but what I'm doing, and so that because I don't want to move my whole phone and everything to show you all, but when it's over, I will link the actual article so that you all can see it for yourselves. So the title of this article is Model, 19 years old, claims to have sold her virginity for nearly $3 million to an Abu Dhabi businessman through an escort website, and says that the second highest bidder was a Hollywood actor. So this woman's name is, your young lady's name is Giselle, and she's 19 years old and based in the US, and says she's happy with the results of this auction. Now, this auction website is based in Germany. And what they do is they auction with the young lady's consent, that they initiate an auction for her virginity. And so the owner of the website said that prior to initiating the service, the girls have to go through a psychological consultation with a licensed psychologist to really make sure that they understand what they're doing, understand the ramifications of it, And do they want to continue? So again, the story is a model claims that she has auctioned her virginity for nearly $3 million and says it is a dream come true for her. Giselle, 19, who is based in the US, says that she decided to sell her virginity through the notorious German-based website called Cinderella Escorts. The agency claims that the highest bidder was a businessman from Abu Dhabi with a bid of 2.5 million euros, while a Hollywood actor was said to have made the second highest bid of 2.4 million euros. Giselle says that she will use the money to pay for her college fees, buy a new house, and go traveling around the world. The model said that I am happy to have decided to have sold my virginity through Cinderella Escorts. I would never have dreamt that the bid would rise so high and we would have reached 2.5 million euros. This is a dream come true. Giselle said that she was shocked by the outrage against women selling their virginity, describing it as a form of emancipation. If I want to spend my first time with someone who is not my first love, that's my decision, she said. The fact that women can do what they want with their bodies and have the courage to live their sexuality free against the critics sets a sign for emancipation. She added, in retrospect, how many would probably give up their first time if they could have had 2.5 million euros instead? In other words, in retrospect, looking back at your first time at the back of somebody's car, under the bleachers at the high school. And she is saying that how many in retrospect would have rather have had $2.5 million, because in her mind, she is saying that some little boy or whoever, you probably never saw him again. It was probably completely dissatisfactory anyway. And it is a prize. It is a prize for those who are willing to bid on it. Giselle said she had planned to sell her virginity before finding out about Cinderella Escorts, but decided it was safer to work with an agency. The agency rose to worldwide fame after the auction in 2016 of Alexandra Kefren, an 18-year-old Romanian model who sold her virginity for 2.3 million euros to an unnamed businessman from Hong Kong. 20% of each auction goes as a fee to Cinderella Escorts, according to local media. The man behind Germany's most famous escort website is 27-year-old Jan Zabaleski, who runs the business from Dortmund and likens a woman's virginity to a very old wine or a luxury car. A spokesman for Cinderella Experts says that on our website, you will find a video where girls from all over the world talk about the reasons to sell their virginity. The highest bidding for Giselle's auction shows us how high the demand for virgins are. Business people from all over the world are bidding. And so let me see if, as much as I said I wasn't going to do this, so let me see if y'all can see. I don't know. Can y'all see this girl? So here she is. She's got her lace on. She's got her picture. And this is her who sold her, the 19-year-old girl. And there are various articles on it. And this is her too. I guess it's a picture of her on the website who sold her virginity. Okay. So now that we have, hey y'all, welcome. Now that we have discussed in various videos in the past the concept of what wealthy men will pay for, in other words, what they are willing to pay for, what they are willing to engage in regards to high value. Mm-hmm. I want so when you think about it in regards to every
after we go live, I'm gonna call you, right?
Right. I told you I was gonna scandalize you, but let's talk about it though.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, my first question was if this woman was a minor, right? And clearly she's
Right,
not a minor. She's 19 years old, right?
right,
So she's around that time where most girls make that decision, if not later. I mean, we normally between 16 and 21 will make that decision anyway. So this is
right.
not a minor child that is, 15, 14, 13 years old. And oftentimes we don't have a particular value for it. I think what's shocking to most people, and probably what shocked her, is that she was able to get a certain currency for it. She was probably completely shocked for $2.5 million. But number one, I think it's within her sole right. I don't think that there's anything morally wrong with that decision if that's what she decided.
Right.
Normally, young girls of many different ages um, have sex really early, 14, 15, some even younger than that. So I think her being 19 years old, she was of sound mind, and
Right.
she demanded a value for what she had. And
Mm-hmm.
she found a buyer for that value. Now, is that common practice among most women? Women, probably not. However, I think that it's really interesting that there was someone in the world willing to pay that amount of money for a woman's virginity. And so I don't per se think there's anything wrong with it because, I mean, for God's sakes, the majority of people do it for fucking free. Like you get,
Right.
you get this for free. You
Right.
get, and not only is it done for free, there's no marriage and then there's no financial stability behind it. So I think
Right.
the practice of it, her actually saying, hey, this is my body, this is what I want to do, that's on her. If I could rewind the clock back, it's so interesting. It's so,
Listen,
I'm laughing.
listen, like, can we be real about it? Can we be
Let's
real about it?
if I could rewind the clock back and pick up $1.5 million for the process, yeah, I would. I'm not gonna lie about it.
Listen,
Yeah.
and see, and see, that's why, I mean, but you know what? It's like, it is incredibly, like, there are so many juicy nuggets and details in this.
Right.
First of all, where does an 18 or 19-year-old come up with such a brilliant plan? And I
Right.
would say more than just the plan. I'm just curious about what is the upbringing, what is the information base that this young child, 19, 18-year-old, had
Mhm.
about her self-worth,
Right.
that she would go against the grain of what most people are taught, that first of all, oh, you're not supposed to be having sex randomly, la 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 la, and all of that. But on top of that, that she said, I'm going to have it, and not only am I going to have it, but I'm going to sell it to the highest bidder. So then you get into, you have to have, unless I am extrapolating, like, you have to have a high sense of self-value in
Mhm.
order to even claim that, because most people are just so quick to have it and get it over with, to lose their virginity.
Right.
And for those who have just joined us, again, we are talking about a United States young lady who was 19, who used a German website to sell her virginity to the highest bidder. And she ended up selling it for 2.5, or was it 2.9 million, 2.5 million ish dollars. And it went through a broker house. It was completely legit. And she got her money. Now, they don't have information as to how the event went down, where it took place and all of that. But we
Right.
get into questions of prostitution, we get into questions of all of this. But come
I,
on now.
I
I
mean,
mean,
the reality is, here's the thing. Um, no. in a aware woman, think about femininity though. Once you become aware, you no longer give up your goodies for free anyway. You know what I mean? There's a price attached to it. If you are bred in a society that says, hey, hey, this is morally wrong. Well, I mean, you had sex for the first time for free, and most of the time it resulted in no marriage. You probably had sex for the second or third time for free, and no marriage behind that. You probably had children. Like, the moral argument is gone. The fact that we have 72% out of wedlock rate means that the prioritizing of marriage on sex is not there, especially in the African American community. But I do think that she demanded a value. And I think that the greater picture was she decided what the value was going to be. Now, people getting upset with her are individuals that probably are upset because they gave theirs away, like so many of us did, for free.
For free.
Yeah, for free. At the risk of getting pregnant, at the risk of catching a disease, because it's probably not anything that was safe, at the risk of, starting a family without marriage, like all these other risks. And I think the thing about it is that she was actually in front of the decision and she wasn't taken advantage of. This is a 19-year-old woman that said that I have not engaged in sexual behavior before. And if you want this, you're going to have to pay for it. Now, here's the thing. Men pay for sex all the time. As a matter of fact, they get it for free most of the time because we have a scavenger culture that allows women to be guilted into giving them sex. So you go out a couple of times on a date, he buy you a pair of shoes, he meets your mama.
If that.
Yeah. I mean,
if that.
You guilted into having sex. So I don't think, personally, I don't think anything was wrong with it. I think what I do think is wrong is for a woman to be laying up with a man and creating children and not having him financially sponsor that activity. Now, if you end up and you are giving this away for free, I think that's something wrong with that.
Speak on it. So, go ahead.
Here's the deal. Women are childbearing, femininity, families, marriages, financial structure, all of those things cost more than your penis is worth. So if you're going to lay down with me, see, it takes, when I look back at my years before and I look back on how much pom-pom I gave up for free, it disgusts me. Not from the pom-pom side or not for the sexual side, but for the fact that I didn't demand what I really wanted from that relationship.
Right.
I didn't say, are you prepared to be a father? Are you financially structured to be a father? Have you saved for a child? These are questions that, I didn't ask. So that frustration comes from not that level of awareness not being there and having brought children into the world. But I think that it's very, very important that what she did was a strong mechanism for women. There is a price attached to your worth besides love. Now, she went in another direction. Yes. She said, hey, this is what I'm selling. This is I'm going to do this anyway. I might as well get some money from it. It didn't seem like she was seeking, marriage and a long-term relationship. It didn't seem like that. And if that was her goal, maybe the dowry would have been higher. But I just think that the underlying notion is that women and their bodies, especially when you're talking about having children and sexual encounters, are not free because you're in an established relationship. That is for poor women that barter love. That's, you ask somebody, I mean, now I look at it as, high risk behavior, because you ask the average woman, well, why do you want to marry him? Why do you want to be with him? And how many times in our lives have we said, because I love him? That is not a sane answer for being with a man and also for having children with a man and starting a family. This is what everybody is waiting on, their knight in shining armor. He's going to be so articulate, when really and truly I found that the men that really are the most stable, the most wealthy, the most developed, the most financially secure, the ones that are really able to afford a family are not your eye candy. They're not the
Thank you.
ones with Gucci this, and that's honestly, that stuff irritates me. When I see a
Right.
man like that, I'm immediately turned off, because
Right.
I know not to, I don't want you to look nice, but if you're walking around here in all this designer stuff, then truly that is a sign. Flashiness is a sign of you faking it till you make it. That's what it
Mm-hmm.
is. And so the men that I've noticed that have been really prepared for family, in other words, they're not expecting their wife to go out and work 2 days after she gives birth. They're not expecting their wife to go out and, return to work as soon as possible because we got rent to pay. They're not expecting those things. And I think that Black women in particular are cornered into this 50-50 model that you don't see anywhere else. Why
Mm-hmm.
do our men, and why aren't our men prepared financially for children? And I'm
Right.
so sick and tired of this whole struggle. I mean, when I have sisters in my inbox now, they're gonna do the build a nation, build a brother up, all this kind of stuff
Build a
like that.
bear, brother. Yes,
That
honey.
is for the birds. When you
Right.
are childbearing, you have a responsibility to your offspring, your legacy, your foundation. It's you have a responsibility. It's no longer just about this particular man. It's no longer just about building a nation that has not developed. The reality is every man has to compete in the world for power. Every man has to compete in the world for power. And if they're not in the game, you can bank on your children being generationally poor, because it's no longer about what they will let me have access to or what I'm being denied. It's about I'm a resourceful man. It is my innate and God-given responsibility to figure this out before I involve myself with the woman and children. This is a
Exactly.
stance. It's a personal value system. Marriage is a
Mm-hmm.
personal value system. And I think that also many times we extrapolate to the Black population as to why that value system is not there, which is detrimental. Because it's not, oh, well, this group of people were enslaved and that group of people. I'm just over that whole
Right.
mechanism. We have
Scenario. Yes.
generations of children that have absolutely no financial futures because we are allowing, as women, a culture of not having a value and a price. Yes, a price on what it's going to take for me comfortably to bear children for you. There's a price
Exactly.
attached to that, not just,
Exactly.
oh, I love him, oh.
Right.
I see
Right.
women in that state. I know that they have been, like so many of us at one point, brainwashed into using their womb to save the race.
Right.
It's brainwashing
Right.
because there's no reason. I was just on the phone. It's so interesting. I was just on the phone earlier today with my son's father, and we were talking just in conversation. And one of the things that was apparent is he said, this is not an excuse. We don't
Mm.
have an excuse.
Mm-hmm.
We can keep saying, hey, all these things are happening to us. But this is like beta man syndrome. This is like, why? You won't open the door for me. So let me why, and cry for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 800, a million years. In the
Right.
meantime, you still stroking and poking and bringing all these babies into the world. So at the
Yes.
end of the day, even men that are truly alpha men are tired of it too. Because
Mm-hmm.
by the time they meet the women in their lifespan that they are really wanting to settle down and have a marriage with, that woman comes with so many children that have been abandoned.
Right.
So strain on the real alpha men that are going out there, instead of providing for themselves and their new wife and their new house and their new car, they got 4 other children to feed.
Right.
So even the men are sick of it.
Right.
At least ones that are marriage, what I call marriage culture, because Black culture doesn't have a marriage culture. We
No.
have do it until the state catch you culture. And
Right.
because of that, we have just generations of children that are not afforded the luxury of being growing up in a household with their mothers in a same place, in a healthy place, and able to be feminine. They're not able to learn women as feminine jewels. They're forced to learn their mother as a man, and
Mm-hmm.
forced to see their mother in a provider role. And there was absolutely no excuse for that. No, there isn't.
Right. Right.
Absolutely. So I
And
think personally, her being at 19, it's kind of bringing full circle. I think that
right.
she made a choice. And instead of her giving it up for free, instead of her saying, oh, because I love you, let me just give it to you. No, she said
Yeah.
no. And I completely respect that. Think about all
Right.
the women that are out there that are having sex, not even for the first time. My God, they're having sex now for free.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
then trying to play wife, trying to play all these roles. I mean, let's just get real. I mean, these roles don't work. You
Right.
got women that are, maintaining the house and family, working a full-time job, paying daycare expenses, picking the kids up from school, cooking dinner, grocery shopping, going in the stores. This is just too much for the
Right.
Canes.
Right. For the king. Exactly. And and it's interesting that for a lot of the women that we both are encountering in our inboxes who are really looking at what we've been doing for the past however long we've been living and
Right,
in mating stage of our life, adulthood, so to speak. And there's so many things that we never actually considered and never were raised to think about in terms
right,
of our reproduction, in terms of our sexuality, and in terms of what we really should be looking for, which most healthy women around the world throughout various cultures are looking for
mhm,
when they want to begin to consider now that they've moved into the adult stage. And when we're talking about that in my inbox, it's interesting how, of course, many of them are single mothers and have made some choices that, they may regret um, uh, or wish they had had more information prior to making those. And then when they are encountering others, it's an interesting, which is another point that I want to touch on, is an interesting it's an interesting thought process to work through internally because when you begin to engage a conversation with the opposite sex, as you are developing your own awareness and knowledge that, your womb, your reproductiveness, your ability to be a feminine woman in the household, that there is a very great and valuable price to that. There's a very great and valuable cost, even to your presence in his life in terms of being a high value woman. In other words, you're not just showing up,
right,
ratchet without having even developed any of your own inner skills, but you have taken the time to develop yourself, to educate yourself, and to become very aware of all of your feminine arts and your skills, even in business and otherwise that you might want to partake in, even within the marriage. And so you're coming from that knowledge. But then, just as a man has his price for his presence in your life, he has a value attached to his being and to what he's worth. But similarly, it's very interesting how in this culture, it's always a given that a man's presence is valuable and that there's that there could be a quote unquote cost attached to it. But then when a woman is speaking of, you know, the value of her presence, the value of her cultivated presence in his life, well, then there's all of this question as to what do you bring to the table, and
right,
well, this, that, and the other. And then there's a question of if he is already in the habitual lifestyle of getting sex for free or going to the strip club and paying, throwing out dollar bills every week. He's doing that, or he's now asking any woman that he's interested in to just basically lay down, and we're just supposed to both enjoy this and keep it moving. And then when she approaches him and indicates that there is a cost for this, then all of
Right.
a sudden, oh, so you're a prostitute? Oh, so you're, but you know what I'm saying? So
Right.
it's now, of course, these are men who, are struggling financially, who don't have that whole concept of what is a valuable woman, who don't have the marriage concept. So that's another question in and of itself. But I still feel like this is a conversation that we want to have amongst women in terms of how do you answer that within yourself, because you will have people asking you if they are not already marriage culture, if they're not already, wealthy or financially stable, and aren't balking at the fact that a woman isn't paying half the bills. And then the constant question of, well, what are you doing? What do you bring to the table? Well, what is this about? Oh, I'm doing all the work. And completely negating everything that a woman does in a man's life when she is, his wife. So I want to address that and see if you can touch on some of those points of how a woman positions within her own mind, when men are asking, that what do you mean by there's a price to this? Or what do you mean that, oh, I have to take you to dinner like 4 times instead of one, before you give it up? Or, oh, so there's all of this attached to what I want with you. So how do you address that?
Right. And I would add to that. I'm gonna give you a little bit of my story. When I first married, I was afforded. I was 21 years old,
Mm-hmm.
and my then husband, my oldest son's father, was 20 years old. Okay, he
Okay.
was 20, and I was 21. Both college students, both highly educated. He had an extremely bright future. He's, an attorney now, worked really hard. But when I was 15 years old, and no, I was 16, and then he was 15. At 15 years old, he actually got a job to take care of me in our teens.
Wow.
Okay. Now,
Wow.
I'm not talking about just regular take, even though I was staying with my parents, of course, I was a teenager. I was 16, he was 15. He worked 12 hours a day and would make his little check. And when he would get his little check, he would take care of things like gas in my car, getting my nails done. At the time I had braids, he would buy my sunflowers for my braids. Eventually, we married. And we did not have a child until after we married, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, even though we're no longer married and we still communicate now because that's been almost 17 years ago. But that was my first example of what a man should do. I never used my debit card. I never had to pay for anything. I never paid a bill. I never paid my own car note. I was just afforded at 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22 to be with a man that was driven by at least family dynamics. I would say that, right? So going through life and just establishing my worth, this was my very first experience. So I had a time to just, go to school and take care of our child, take care of him. So that was my first experience outside of my personal home household, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
over the years, I think as a woman, no matter what you have, whether you have great experiences or bad experiences, you start establishing your worth inside of yourself. And this is not a fake, let me get everything I can to, add on to myself. This is what is the requirement for me to be happy in my full feminine power and to absolutely take care of myself as a first priority. Not what's left over, not what crumbs are left on the table, not if we get around to it. What is the requirement for me to be, not just feel like a woman, to be a woman? Does
Mm-hmm.
that mean I need time every day to take care of myself? Does that mean that I need to shop for certain goods? Does that mean I need to have a certain amount of space around me? Does that mean that I need to shop and, to create something, to build something? What is my value to myself? And when you start establishing your value to yourself, you're looking at the things you like, the things that make you come alive, your purpose. Are you doing the things that really make you happy? So when we start talking about self-value, it has really, even before you approach a male or man, it's really to establish value within yourself. Who am I as a woman? What do I have to give to a family, marriage, or man, and myself primarily first? And then how do I want to show up in the world? This is how you're going to establish the value system in yourself. Now, two things are going to happen when you encounter a man and you have an established value. That means when you have an established value system, you are living your ritual. You are living the
Mm-hmm.
magic. You're living the ultimate ritual for yourself. You wake up, you take care of your skin, you're taking care of your body, you're able to take
Mm-hmm.
care of your basic needs. You're able to feel the role of being a wife or a mother or a woman in fullness and completion. So
Right.
when that value is established, it's almost like a little subtle instinctual signal that you radiate.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Right.
Everywhere you go, you radiate that. The beta man, the ones that are really not family driven, not, I won't say family driven, they're just not financially strong enough to maintain a marriage and family, right?
Mm-hmm.
Some of them are like long-term boyfriends, and
Right.
boyfriends for 17 years and work at the same job for 18 years, well, 30 years, and then they go and die. But when
Mm-hmm.
I say when you have an internal aura and radiance that is really emitted from you, this is not something you can fake. You
Mm-hmm.
can't fake this. Unlike
Mm-hmm.
a look or, a car or a house, you can't fake your true expectation. So when you are around other people, they can feel, especially alpha men, can feel your worth to yourself.
Thank you.
Because there are going to be two things that's going to happen. One, they're going to be
Mm-hmm.
absolutely repelled by you. They're
Right.
not going to come near you. They're not going to make eye contact with you. They're not going to even be in your space. Or
Mm-hmm.
two, they're going to be absolutely attracted to you,
Right.
right? Your job is not to just exhaust your resources sorting through them. Your job is to stand firmly in what your worth is. And
Right.
either they're going to be repelled or attracted. Now, when a man is attracted to your true, authentic worth, he is going to do whatever is required and what it takes to be with that woman, because that to him as an alpha man is a prized woman.
Right.
Because these men have already mapped out how they want their life to be. So when they
Mm-hmm.
see someone that fits that position and whatever her price is, they're going to pay it.
Right.
Now, this is not like a beta man that sees a very strong, alpha driven, flourishing feminine woman and tries to make you bring your standards down, or try to give you some kind of reason why, I lost my job 18 years ago and that's why I'm not working.
Girl.
My baby mama's had me on child support court. All this stuff
Oh my God.
because
Right.
I'm black, or
The
right now I'm
man.
with my mama and I'm gonna get my own money
Mm-hmm.
soon. Right now I'm driving my sister's car, but these are all things a smart beta man that's attracted to an alpha woman won't ever open his mouth.
Mm-hmm.
You know why? Because he has to decide if she is worth the chase.
Mm-hmm.
But see, a truly developed man that is of financial means knows what he sees when he sees it. And it
Right.
cannot be fake. So your self-worth and your self-value is something mentally you start establishing, but then it becomes physical, where you are actually, taking care of your body, taking care of your skin, making sure you get enough rest, taking care of yourself, because when you marry, these are things that's going to be expected of him to be able to afford. If a man sees a woman that looks like she's been hit by a bus, all tore up, and he's attracted to that, that's a man that does not and has not prepared for a wife. Because in the mind of men that are abundance driven and have planned their lives, they're not going to take trash in, because they have generations to lead. They have trust, they have estates, they're part of a hedge fund. They're not just going to pick up. They may sleep with a prostitute or have a girlfriend as a prostitute, but when it comes to marriage, you have to really be able to fit that bill, because he already know he's not looking to figure out what he wants.
Right.
That's poor man's talk.
He already knows.
State of abundance already knows that. So when a woman has a set value system in the work, the worst thing you can do is go against your own value system for a particular man.
Girl.
Because what happens is, once you break the code with yourself, you open the door for everybody else to do exactly the same.
Exactly.
If you want to have standards, which I suggest for every woman, don't waver. You may interact with 100 men, 200 men, just in casual talk, just in dating. But eventually, as you begin to project from inward out, that you're not just leading from here, but you're leading from your womb, this is going to start you to, number one, have higher private wealth for yourself. Just by the fact that you are working on your self-worth means you're taking chances to develop businesses, ideas, and travel, which means you're automatically putting yourself in different circles.
Right.
So the likelihood of actually meeting a man at your frequency is a direct derivative of actually investing in yourself.
Exactly. Right.
So the more you put in your cup, the more you have to share with other people. And the more, some people, I got this question in my inbox. She says, I'm 50 years old. I haven't found the right one. I've had all the worst men in the world. And my first question to her is, what is your daily routine? Well, I run late for work. I get up, I go to work, and then I come home. And she told me her whole day. And not one time did I hear, well, I have my bath at this time. These are the products I use. I try to take care of my skin, my hair. I treat myself well. I go to this restaurant. So I said, well, if you're so sure you're running into the wrong man, what practices and customs have you put in place to ensure that you are actually ready for the right one?
Girl.
And she said, I never thought about that. I said, well, how are you going to measure if you're treated well if you're not treating yourself well? So my advice to her was start with a simple daily routine of self-adornment and self-care. This is carving out, as you use, I love it when you use the word carve. This is carving out that time to take care of yourself. But see, the powerful part about that is when you do that, you're putting intentions all over yourself.
Yes, ma'am.
You are glazing your energy system and your energy field. You are operating on, most of the time, some of these men won't even know why they're attracted to you. You will have inner glow that really is radiating out, but that comes with building up personal power and automatically knowing what your net worth is. And I go a step further. I tell women, hey, put a dollar value on it. So when you are dating someone and you are getting serious and you start thinking, oh, this is the one, this is definitely the one, and he's the one, and I love, well, you should have a numerical figure of how much it's going to take for you to be a woman in that marriage. What is it take? 5,000 a month, 10,000 a month, 50,000 a month, 100,000 a month? What is it going to take for you to be in your full fruition? When you know that figure and you know what that is, you know what your personal, okay, then as we escalate in this partnership or this relationship, we now have some numbers to work around. So it's not
That's
just
right.
you love me and you think I'm so sweet and smell so good. Let's talk about, can you afford me?
I know
Because
that's,
you
girl.
investing in yourself, if you have a high self-worth, I'm telling you, Leah, you have to have a value, a numerical value in which what it's going to take for you to be a woman.
I know
Because
that's right.
if it takes $5,000 a month for you to have your personal needs met and to be able to care for your children and care for yourself or whatever, but he's only making $750 a month, that means he needs a roommate. He's not ready for a wife. He
Right.
needs a roommate.
Right.
And so love is not going to compensate for the fact that you have $4,300 missing.
Missing. Exactly.
So I
And
was saying,
hence divorce,
work,
because
yes,
we know.
self-work. And then also, yes, it does boil down to numbers, because
Right.
you are a woman, and I haven't met a woman yet that has not, most of the time when people ask these questions, Leah, they've already started investing in themselves. They're
Right.
educated, they're smart, they just want better. So why not have a figure on board on what is it going to take to be with you as a woman in a marriage, not a long-term girlfriend?
Right.
Because at the end of the day, you want to focus on the one factor that breaks poverty, which are marriages. And anybody
Yes.
that tells you, oh, I don't want to be in the system, is a person that doesn't have a trust or an estate, because both of those are in the system.
Right.
That means you have no accountability whatsoever. When you
Right.
say when you say to a woman, I'm not into that marriage stuff. What exactly? Where's your private wealth located? Germany, somewhere outside of the country? Where's your actual wealth?
Right.
Well,
Right.
I was working on some things. No, this is not a person that's ready for marriage. It doesn't mean that they're a bad person, but they just can't afford you. They just cannot
Right.
afford you. That's the bottom
Right.
line.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think it's really like you have dropped so many valuable jewels, and I'm gonna make some notes here in a minute, because I think that what's missing from so many women's toolbox that they pull from during this lifetime are analytical, logical specifics.
Right.
So if we have not had the upbringing and the education from our own parents, who themselves have been missing it for many generations, then we
Absolutely.
go out into this world completely unprepared and completely um, off the mark in terms of what's really important in terms of a woman's care and a woman's value. And so what you have been able to describe, and it's what you and I have been discussing for some time. We've both had, individual posts as well as, videos on this topic.
Right.
But many of us are circling in the same crew in terms of the social media circles, and many of us are familiar with the word self-care, and many
Right.
of us are familiar with the word, various keywords that are, elevation, awakening, self-care, cleansing. And we have various components, but it's just been very refreshing this particular year in
Mm-hmm.
order to connect the dots in how it is an integral part of a woman's life, not just from a holistic healthcare perspective or
Absolutely.
holistic healthcare perspective, but also a holistic family and financial perspective. And I think that is because we're coming from the Blackistan slash, you know, Black culture aspect of it. And we're not tying that in with the fact that many aspects of the so-called culture are very, backwards, in the sense that they've not produced what we wanted. And
Absolutely.
so as women, we have to be able to tie and anchor our
Hmm.
self-healing and our self-care to things that actually benefit the key factors of our life, which is reproduction, which is our children, which is marriage. And so if we're not able to anchor all of these different little things that we've been doing for some time in compartmental manners, that we're not actually tying that together with our relationships. So while we are in the toxic relationships, we then need to detox and do all these other little things just to cope and survive within
Right.
our toxic relationships, because we have not tied it all together, and we seem to somehow separated marriage and finances and intergenerational wealth from well-being, as if
Absolutely.
it's two different, streams of thought,
Yeah.
as if spiritualism is over here and finances, but meanwhile you need some clothes on your back to do your yoga, unless you're doing naked hot yoga. You need
Which I
you
haven't
need
tried
a
yet.
which I'm all for. I mean, can I get some help here? But I'm just saying, but I'm just saying, that there are so many aspects that we have been skirting around. And
Right.
when you get to the hardcore of what you've just described for the past 30 minutes, like that just brings it to the realism that we understand that though we've been doing various facets of self care, we still continue to enter into toxic relationships that are imbalanced because the gender roles have been so skewed. And now we are faced with this wealth of information, this wealth of education and degrees that we have, and this wealth of ability to make it happen and make a way even when there wasn't a way, and we're
Right.
doing all of this stuff, but yet we've not had the basic education to understand that you don't have to do all of that
No. And you shouldn't
in
do
order
all.
to survive, and you shouldn't be. Now
No.
if you want to get your education, like just like Connie was telling me, I mean, there are women of other backgrounds and races who will go to Rutgers and Cambridge and all of these schools. They may even have careers or whatever, but once they know what the hell they're looking for when it's time to marry, they're not marrying a scrub. They're not marrying somebody who's got all these excuses and all of that. And a lot of them, despite the outward feminist commentary that they keep up, they are
Right.
quite willing to set their career and all of that aside when it's time for them to marry and have children and to make a life, and then to secure the future of the children, because there's not too many people out here who can run a full-time career and run the world and be a global CEO and this, that, and the other as a woman, and then still try to, secure, unless she's got 4 and 5 nannies and all of that that's going on. It's not possible. And so many of them take time off of their career to raise these children, because what? Why? Because they have it like that, because they chose well, and they placed a value on their presence, their worth, and their reproductive abilities. So when we circle back to this 19-year-old who is the premise of this entire conversation, for those of you who are joining us later, the whole premise of this, which I do need to post this article into our chat, is a 19-year-old who sold her virginity for $2.5 million. So for those of y'all who came late, that was the whole premise of this entire conversation, is what in the world? So we've been giving it away for free. We've been just whatever at 16, 17, 18, whatever age we were. And this young 19-year-old young lady said, I'm going to get my money and I'm going to do me. And this man from Abu or whatever, he paid 2.5 million
Hmm.
for her virginity.
Yeah.
And she set it off as at an auction. And it was mind blowing to me that a woman that young, I was so clueless at 18, 19. I was ridiculous.
Hmm.
Okay. And for her to have this, and again, she's not a black woman, she's a white woman. Again, so we want to look at these cultural markers,
Right.
that what is missing in the so-called black culture and the black community where it's about in the club, it's about this, and all these youths raised on this ridiculous concept, this music, these lyrics, and all of that, and we're giving everything away for free, having how many children by the age of 21, whatever the situation is, and this 19-year-old girl from another background and culture has decided to auction her virginity off, knowing that most people, I think it would probably be what, 98% of women's first time, they don't know where the hell he is right now. It's like whatever, you know what I'm saying? If it wasn't a horrible experience, it was like just, threw it together. It just happened, whatever. They were drunk. I don't know what. And meanwhile, this girl at 19 said, I'm going to auction this off and I'm going to make my money and I'm going to invest. I'm going to finish my education, pay off my, and travel and live my life. Like,
right.
I really wanted to talk about this. Like, it's real out here. Like, for real, though. Seriously.
I think, it's so interesting that we are trained, that even women are trained, that this should be something that's for free. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I think
right.
The most appalling side is that people think, oh, well, she should have done that, or it's so supposed to be special and noble.
Mm-hmm.
God, please.
Mm-hmm.
The reality of the matter is she made a move that I really hope more 19-year-olds think about, because it's not free.
It's not.
It's so interesting that, the cost of, they have dowries set up in certain cultures. I know, like in African cultures and many different cultures in the Middle East or whatever, where, once the woman gets ready to get married or whatever, she pays, the husband pays a dowry and all this kind of stuff like that. But it's still minimal to what you're actually getting. It's because some men are accustomed they're not coming from a marriage culture. That's number one.
Right.
And that's the first thing you look for in a man. It's a marriage culture. And then you can tell the way that he values a woman that's coming into his life. And a lot of times, most men are not financially stable enough, especially for women that are educated enough to know, I have a certain value, this is what it's going to take, and this is just my value. And I don't think anything is wrong with that, because at the end of the day, we all should have a price. If most of us had a price and stuck to it, that would eliminate so many cultural problems.
Oh my God.
Now, to be with this woman is, you look good, you got a BMW. Honey, listen, we should not be looking for BMWs. We should be looking for that beat up Toyota that's going into the International Bank downtown New York, Manhattan, New York. That's what we should be looking for. But we've been trained, especially as women of color, to just always adjusting our costs and expectations. We're always put in a position where we're entertaining. Well, he's a good guy, but he's just having a hard time for the last 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years. He's just been having a hard time. I mean, that may be the case. But here's the reality. If he's having a hard time, then why would you compound that hard time by bringing children into the situation?
Thank you. Thank you. Well, then you get religion. Then you add religion, though. That's the answer to that. Like, I have the answer to that. Like, I've heard that. Like, that, Jah provide, or, whatever the religion is, that, that's why. Like, blessed are the poor and the meek.
Yeah, because you know what the reality is? Religion gets the prayers that your husband should be answering.
Girl.
Religion gets the prayers that your husband should be the missionary on that.
Oh my God.
To be the missionary of your state and your trust. Your husband should be the one that is making sure that financially your household is sound. These are the things that your husband should be doing. And any man that puts a woman in a position of a provider cannot be spiritual. You
Well,
obviously
hence
not
why
putting
so many are looking at Jesus as their husband, or whoever. It's
exactly.
that's what it's become.
All of her time. That's where all of her money is going. And then she goes home and she
Yes.
plays wife. She's not an actual wife, because a wife is afforded the luxury of being in her femininity, being in her power, so that everyone in that household, I mean, just to look at the tremendous value and pleasure and lifelong enhancing values that a wife brings to her husband.
Mm.
Look what look at what a wife brings to the table. We are increasing your longevity. We are making
Mm-hmm.
sure that you will be on the planet forever through extending your bloodline. We're nurturing and caring for your children. We're turning your house into a home that creates an oasis for you. We're helping to
Girl.
grow your wealth. We're helping to grow your estate. We're helping to add value and prestige and status to your life.
Right.
And you mean to tell me, after all of that, you want me to flip a burger?
Girl.
That's no. You
You
really
so
want
listen,
me? You
listen.
need to
Yes.
position myself,
Right.
grow your empire, and to grow
Mm-hmm.
your business and to grow your status. Because to me, really good wives have a very unique way of enhancing the statuses of their husband.
Yes, they
Very,
do.
see, they don't want to
Absolutely.
talk about, see, poor man talking about some, you going 50-50 on these bills? You go 50-50 on these? That's a poor man's mentality.
Right.
Because men that I really respect are the ones that says, I got this. Let's do this. This is where I see my life. So when the relationship is escalating, the conversation moves from what can you do for me, are you going to go out, to this is the plan that I have, and this is my
Right.
5-year plan, and this is what I have here. This is what I have in gold. This is what I have in commodities. This is what I have in my funds. This is what I have in my investment portfolio. This is what I have saved for my children. This is the house I own. This is my fixer upper. This is a man that has prepared for a wife. So a man of that
Right.
status is not worried about whether or not you got $500 for the rent. If he's asking for rent, he's not prepared for marriage.
I
As
know,
a matter of
girl.
fact, he's not prepared for a girlfriend. I had the same conversation with my 16-year-old son. He jumped on a minute ago. We had the same conversation. My son is 16-year-old. I said, you have no business with a girlfriend without a job. You have to become employed immediately, because you
Right.
can't come to me for money to take her out. If you step in the game, you're going to have to play the game to win. So next weekend, while we're on our downtime, and I realize you're away at school, if you're going to entertain this woman, you must be financially prepared. He said, Mama, I'm on it. I'm looking for a job right now. I said, you won't take her out again without money.
I know that's right.
You're 16 years
Girl.
old. You need to understand
Mm.
that you can't
Mm.
lay with this girl for free. You can't fill on
Right.
her for free. You can't fill her booze for free. You're going to pay for that.
Girl, listen, and you know what? That's so true. And see, this is the education that is missing. And unfortunately, I mean, fortunately, yes, that he has this, from you, because I get the sense and the feeling based on what so many of our young girls are experiencing out here, that most women are not telling their sons this. Most women, for all the big mama, the strong, independent black woman, all of that you got going on mentally and energetically, you're not telling your sons this. But unfortunately, we don't have the men in place as the role models,
Absolutely.
based on, what's happened in our past and just everything that we're dealing with. These are things that a man should have been telling him. You know what I'm saying? From day one, that he actually should have been seeing a man doing, and, moving forward. But I absolutely, this is why, even if we were just talking amongst ourselves, just
Mm-hmm.
you and I, with nobody on this, live feed, to me, it is incredibly invigorating and nourishing to hear and to discuss this elevation and this information that we have been missing for a good, what is this, 2018? So I would say a good 68 years.
Right.
I would say maybe through, I mean, the 50s were kind of, 60s, we just let the hell, let it all go. But I'm
Yeah.
just saying, like, if we want to take it back to the 50s where this was common knowledge, where it wasn't this ridiculous, stupid discussion about, well, what do you bring to the table? What do you do? What do you value? What are you doing? It's none of that. Like, that wasn't, these were common sense. And that's what I try to drill into, the people that I talk to, and even myself, and remind myself, because sometimes you can get caught up and be talking to this brother that you think, or that has it together, and then that somehow always pops up, and
Right.
then you realize, okay, well, I'm in the wrong train station. Bye. I'm not even going to sit here and list out to you what I bring to the table. If
Right.
you are, just as you said, with the energy that's emitted, an alpha male who's already on it, already discovers and notices, like, it is a natural,
It's not.
fit the parts, just like a battery. You have the hat part and the flat part, and they fit in. It just fits. There's not this long discussion about what you bring to the table or what are you doing. It just is. And we
Absolutely.
have complicated and obfuscated the situation by just coming up with this randomness, this ridiculousness, these feminine arguments about whether men getting on their knees and proposing to a woman is oppressive to women. Like, you have women discussing this shit, like, on various things. Meanwhile, like Connie said, these same women are not doing this behind the scenes, when whatever, they're not going through all of that, but they have an agenda that they're promoting. And unfortunately, because Black women are so undernourished,
Mm-hmm.
women of color are so undernourished, we soak up anything, just like
And
a
it,
sponge. If a
mhm.
dry sponge is somewhere and it's allowed to become so dry and so rickety
Right.
that any bit of moisture around it, it'll soak it up. But
Yeah.
if you have a sponge that's already filled with the proper nourishment, with the proper liquid, with the proper watering, it doesn't require additional. It already has what it needs. And I
Absolutely.
think that's the situation that Black women are in, that just the basics of how to put one foot in front of the other, we question it. Just the
Mm-hmm.
basics of, because so many women, and even myself, I mean, and it's no shade, but so many that I have discussed and talked with, well, how do I find my feminine nature? How do I even discover this? Like, what do I even do? And which was
Mm-hmm.
why I did the certain introductory videos on my channel. But it's like, it's so it's incredibly awakening to understand that women are having children and are engaging in sex and marriage and all of these situations and relationships, and have absolutely no clue about, first of all, that they've been operating in a masculine mode, and that,
Absolutely.
second of all, if I've been operating in a masculine mode, then what is the feminine mode? Like, it's like asking an animal or a bird, that like, a bird is sitting there asking, well, how do I fly? I mean, I it seems like I was supposed to have been flying, but I mean, it sounds somewhat familiar, but how do I do that? And that's literally what we're doing. We're
Yes.
literally here asking, and we're questioning ourselves, because we're dealing with bottom feeders, who are asking us to prove who we are as women and our femininity. And then we're questioning our own femininity because
Right.
we've been in masculine mode. And so it's just this messed up basket. And so I say all of that to say, when you're talking about setting an actual number
Mm-hmm.
in terms of your monthly, what does it take to maintain you in the status and the state of being and the state of mind that you can adequately run your household, take care of the children, educate, culture, nourish them, run the home, and do everything that's required to nurture your feminine side, is there a number? And have you taken the time to set a numerical value to that? But
Yes.
then you have to also ask yourself, you know, if your pool that you are supposed to be choosing from is not able to, or if the pool is so diminished and small, then we have the whole secondary conversation, which is yet another video in terms of women really need to open up to the reality of the situation. If there is such a small pool of those who can actually handle the adequate number, the numerical value on your femininity and on what you will bring to the table because you have nourished and educated and formulated and prepared yourself for this. If there's not enough, then what do you do? And so many women have been put on the back burner and have decided that they're going to sit here for 10, 12 years without having a mate of that caliber because they have been told that, you know, he's got to be this or he's got to be that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's very important for us to look at that because clearly we have seen within our community that Black men have been 30, what are they, 25 to 30% marrying others at this point. Those who are and who are able to monetarily maintain a household and all of that, they're looking at the Latinas, the Beckys, the everything else, and they could care less about marrying a sister. I mean, and that's in all honesty.
Right. And the reality
Many
is,
of them.
right, absolutely. And there are two things. I love what you said about the fact that we do have a situation where, you know, to me, it's intelligent to open your options. That's number one. It's non-intelligent to only, number one, I don't think it's healthy to, especially to a culture of men that has historically been underprepared financially. We're going to take the emotionalism out of the conversation. If you're only choosing a mate from a group that has historically underperformed financially, the reality is you're going to have some slim pickings. If you only select from that group, I think as an intelligent woman, you have to open your options up. And when you open your options up, you begin to prioritize values over rates. Values over rates, right? So if that's uncomfortable to you, then what you're saying to yourself subconsciously is that, yes, I have a value system, but I am willing to negotiate this if I find a good one. That's what you're saying to yourself. You have to be able to gather the courage to expand your options across the globe and prioritize the lifestyle and your future generations over the comfort of being with someone just like you.
Right.
And if you cannot make that adjustment, then keep picking from the slim catches. The reality of the matter is, historically in Black culture, the women, especially Black women, are grossly overeducated to Black men. Most are able to maintain their own personal households. They outnumber, Black men almost to 2 million people. These are just statistics that would cause an intelligent person to say, I've got to change the way that I look at how do I entertain a prospective mate. So I think it's only intelligent for you to say, I'm going to expand my options because my value system and my worth system as a woman overrides the comfort that I've always been taught. This is a problem, I think, that a lot of women are going to have to really face up, and because other races of people benefit from Black women being in provider, hard, strong roles. Because as long as you're hard and strong and holding it down, and he's using your car for gas money, and you're paying half the rent, and you're having children and taking them, as long as you're doing all of that, then you are a non-competitive woman for an alpha man or a man that is prepared for financial security. So then it comes back to your work.
Oh my God.
That's the game. That's the game that so many women play on the international level. They convince Black women, number one, that we are guilted and obligating to fixing the Black race. And because we are guilted into only fixing the Black race, we're out marching and slamming and boots on and doing all this other stuff. And because we're obligated to that, that means you don't have to compete for their possibility.
Hold on a second.
That's how they play. This is how
listen,
this shit is
and
fun.
it wasn't, oh my gosh, and it wasn't until I listened to several of Connie's videos who I had on here last week that it dawned on me. And then I tied it back to something you said in our first video, which was that when you're in survival mode,
yes,
constantly ripping and running, paying bills, even though you have a man sitting next to you and it's all the man's fault, it's all of that going on. But when you're in survival mode and you are not able to properly protect yourself from those who would do you harm. And
absolutely.
So when I combine that with her commentary about competition, and again, if you are in survival mode and you are not properly taking care of yourself, you have not positioned yourself within your own personal throne and your own personal worth, then you are in survival mode and you are not understanding the dynamics that are going on amongst the women who are not in survival mode. So when I then thought about various articles I've read, stories from, various college friends or whatever, when you have young Caucasian women who, for instance, are going to college or going to school, they're cheerleaders and whatnot. They're out there cheerleading on the side of the football games and the basketball games. And they're looking at these young men who are getting picked by the draft and the NBA and all of that. They are positioning themselves. Not that they can't go and do an accounting degree and all of that, but they are positioning themselves to get that money. And they know that a lot of Black men are color struck and they are so into the white women and they're so flattered by having, the white and the Latino and everybody else running after them. And there's just this whole fear around the Black man and the white woman. And this has just become astronomically, it's just blown up. And so they are giving their wealth, cite Tiger Woods, cite the girl that Kobe went and messed up with in Colorado Springs just because she was a young blonde and all of that. And she got his, she just laid him out and flayed him in public when he was out there, and he married, but had this little blonde after him. And he was just and it's just case after case of Black men carrying on behind these women that are throwing themselves at them, who would not give them the time of day if they were Kwame from the hood on the corner selling dope. But because why? They have a financial, package that comes with them. That is really and truly. And so don't get it twisted. I know a lot of brothers are feeling themselves and they feel like Becky and Latina and all of that is after them, but it's because of a particular promotion and a particular package that they have, because the regular Kwames on the streets do not have that opportunity. J-Lo and all of these women that they love and carry on about are not checking for them if they do not have that finances behind them. And so even to the point where now Beyonce is talking about Becky with the good hair, like it's a thing. And like I have a whole gorgeous YouTube channel on the whole colorism and the whole situation that we got going on. But Black women really need to be aware, because while you are signing up and co-signing for all these spiritual movements and all of this carrying on about, all of that. And you just need to be down for the brothers, and you just need to be a ride or die chick, and you just need to do this, and you just need to do that, and produce all of these children that nobody's paying for, and this whole life. And you set yourself up for a level of poverty that even the brothers are not experiencing because they're not raising the children. You're not thinking about that you have completely classed yourself out of the competitive game, the competitive market. And when meanwhile, these other girls who, if they've been raised properly with a much higher percentage, have been than our girls, they are going out there and they're going for broke. They're going to be the cheerleader. They're going to get their body right. They're going to be in the gym. They're going to have their makeup and hair and all of that. They're going to have the glow and the whole bronzing things on so they can get their Latina look on. Whatever it is that is popular, they're going to get their butt injections. And they're doing it. And they're getting these brothers who are simps and who are going for this because some white girl's looking at them. You know what I mean? And then everybody's applauding it. But meanwhile, they're going to sleep with you and make babies with you over here and won't pay for your children, but they're over here marrying Becky. And it's interesting that we keep putting up with this, and then we support them and come to bat for them. Mm-hmm. When Becky, like Tiger Woods' girl, she took all of his coins, like, dumbass. You know what I'm saying? Like, you dumbass. That Becky was that important, like it was that good that you would just give all of you. I mean, you were on the top of your game and you allowed, and this is what brothers do. Like, it's amazing the level of incompetence, the level of lack of intelligence, like, and strategicness, because anytime there's a Becky around, they just lose it. You know what I mean? And meanwhile, we're over here accepting scraps. We're over here answering questions about what do you bring to the table. Did Tiger ever ask Becky or from Sweden or wherever she's from, Norway, what she brought to the table? Did Kobe ever ask Latina homegirl, whatever, what does she bring to the table? Not one of these brothers are asking any of these women what they bring to the table. But you're sitting over here in your conscious movement, and then you're this and you're that, and pummeling and playing with all of these questions about who you are, what you bring to the table, and what can you contribute to their struggle. No, absolutely not.
And this is the thing too. I will even take it a step further to say that there is a subtle, beneficial, mutually exclusive pact between Black culture and Becky. Okay? It's subtle. It's an understanding. Right? Both groups exclusively benefit from keeping Black women in survival mode consistently.
Yes. So
now,
that she does not compete.
Interesting enough, these men could level up to attract and be with the women once they obtain a certain financial level. But I would argue that too, all the colorism that goes on inside the Black community is just a willingness to be on the waiting list. To pursue Becky. But it's an understanding of knowing that you can only pursue her when your money is right. But that's the ultimate prize. Right. Absolutely. That's the ultimate prize. Not for everybody, but I did have a brother in the conscious community to admit that to me, that that's what colorism is all about with Black women. It's the waiting list to get the prize that they really wanted. Right. The other side to it is that as long as Black women are allocated to only marrying and having children for and obligation and guilted into only dealing with Black men, then she is non-competition in the global arena. Because at that point in time, those groups are only allocated to certain kinds of women. Right. So there's a beneficial part of not having the 2 million excess African-American Black women not go global. Right. Because then the game would change.
But meanwhile, just to quickly interject, just to add the superficial, while you are placed out of the global competitive market, those who are maintaining their place in it are busy with plastic surgery and with every other aspect to get your features,
Yes.
which
Yes.
the brothers eat up in
Mm-hmm.
others. But,
Because
and so it's very interesting. It's very
it's
interesting
because
how, and you got to really think about that. Like, you got to get out of your emotions, get
mm-hmm.
out of your so called loyalty to a Blackistan that is yet to build. And there
Yes.
are plenty of brothers who can do it and are working on it in their own way. So I'm not saying that it's all brothers. I'm just simply saying that there has been developed a culture and a normative way of being that excuses, lack of activity and lack of real progress through excusism. And
Mm-hmm.
so no race of people, and Marcus Garvey would be turning in his grave, because no race of people have ever overcome any obstacles through the manner of excuses that the Black community has right now. No
Mm-hmm.
race has ever overcome and done what they needed to do and conquer by doing what the spiritual, the conscious, the this, the that, and all of these other segments of the community are doing. And so, but when you look at that as a woman, because you've not been trained on that, because you've not been trained to place a value and
Yes.
a marketable value on yourself, you have no idea that there is a competitive market out there of
Yes.
women who are placing themselves for the highest bidder. Now, the premise of this was that this young 19-year-old girl, which is what I started the whole video about, has sold off or auctioned off her virginity for 2.5 million, which was the whole premise of this entire conversation. But we want to bring it into and distill it to an understanding for sisters worldwide that you have been missing a very critical part. Meanwhile, everybody is looking for your features. Everybody is trying to replicate you and getting surgery and tanning and doing all of this stuff while you're over here struggling with Kwame.
Mm-hmm.
You're over here struggling and carrying on over spiritual and, nonsense that has
Mm-hmm.
not gotten your people anywhere over the past 60 years. And you're being super feminine, or it's church, or it's Jesus, you're married to Jesus, whatever it is. Okay, no shade or whatever, but I'm simply saying, what has it gotten for you? What are you
Mm-hmm.
able to pass on to your daughters and your girls in terms of their worth and what they're going out to marry? And are they dealing with these brothers who are sitting up there asking them, what do you bring to the table and everything? Like, there are women out here who are moving and shaking and doing all of that. And this is what the so called cream of the crop of your so called people are looking for. They're
Mm-hmm.
looking for those who value their wealth, whether it's Becky or Latina Susie or whoever, who have placed a value on their worth, and they're going for it. And they understand that these women, they know what these women are about. They know what these girls on these cheerleaders on the sidelines at Cambridge and Yale and all of that, they know what these girls are about. But they
Mm-hmm.
also have their own colorism and their own, enslavement, all of that that's going on. Maybe 1% of it is really love. I mean, that's just me, whatever. But
Right.
everybody's getting a value from it. He gets the value of feeling that he's upgraded himself. He feels like he's
Mm-hmm.
more of a man by having Becky and having everybody or whatever on his arm, and he can be out here, and that adds value to him. Meanwhile, it is similar to the mentality of wealthy men of various races who understand that having eye candy, meaning a gorgeous, well kept woman, not just a
Yes.
woman with all her spiritual values and she's read the book of the dead and she can, do all of this and all of that because she's super spiritual. No, he is wanting a woman he can take to the boardroom, he can take to the galas, he can do this and do that with, and she can represent. She knows which fork to use, which spoon to use, all of that because she's been well trained, because that's the world he travels in. And he
Yes.
wants a woman who other wealthy men would look at him and judge him based on how she looks. They
Yes.
judge him based on what he is able to attract to himself. If he can attract a woman that looks like that, who has all of these socially approved, whatever, then that ups his status. And they have said that a married man is much more trustworthy in business transactions than a single man, because they understand that a married man can actually uh, consider the cost of what he's doing within
Yes.
his transaction. He has a family to support. He has a wife at home. He has children. So he's not going to make haphazard and ridiculous, necessarily ridiculous at all times, choices in business matters when he is the king of his castle. Now, we're
Yeah.
not talking about the Blackistan so-called king who has zero castle, but everybody's got to call him a king. We're talking about real stuff, not this made up bullshit. You know what I'm saying? Because everybody wants to feel good about themselves. And you ain't got a pot to piss in, but you're a king. But we're talking about those who are actually
Yeah.
dealing with portfolios and massive amounts of power and wealth. And no matter what you say about your kingdom, if you don't have power, if you don't have wealth, you have nothing. I mean, it is the way it is. If you want to dream up another world in another dimension and go to sleep and be a king in that dimension, you may as well, have at it. But in this kingdom right here, where we are existing in a 3D realm, where you have children to feed, where you have to navigate your way through it, until you have enough power to change the game, stop. Stop talking about all this other stuff, because you're not going to change it until you have power. And in this world, power requires wealth,
Yeah.
period. So if you're a Black woman over here talking about kings and queens and all of this stuff that you're doing and magic this and all of that you got going on, but you have zero power, you have zero wealth, and you want to talk about your spiritual kingdom, and nobody cares. And you know what? You will be extremely spiritual when you die, and your children will be scraping pennies together to try to put together your box to lay you in after you've lived your spiritual life.
Yeah.
Nobody cares. And you've left nothing for your children while you were super spiritual all your life. Burning sage and yoga positions, comedic yoga, all of that. And I'm not, no shade. I mean, do you. But if it has no power behind it, and when your children can be knocked off of their base with a blow of the wind, because you have no base, but you've got all the yoga positions, like, no, what are you doing?
Yes.
What are you doing?
It has, and the reality is, every group, especially the men in every group around the world, have to compete for power.
They have to. And you said that in a post today. They have to.
They have to. And so when you have a culture that's not only not competing for power primarily, there's some that are. Nothing
and making excuses about it.
But you're making excuses about it. You're saying, I can't compete for power because they won't let me. That says a lot.
That's a beta, because no man says they didn't let me go run this football down the floor. Now you watching football every Sunday, and ain't no football star sat up and said, well, I couldn't run that ball because they wouldn't let me.
Right. And so
not one of them said that.
Not one. And that's the thing too, that's why, when I was writing about even the culture being a culture of excuses as to why, instead of grinding it up together, instead of saying, hey, we are men and we want families and we want our women and we want to keep our children and families together. If they won't let me, then we, not our women, have to build for ourselves so that we don't lose our women. That's if you value your women.
That's if you value them. But
that's
clearly, clearly the story is in the statistics and everything else, and the exhausted number of women out here making excuses for kings and all of that's not it. Yes. That's not it. And I mean, flip the channel, go on to the Conscious Q crew, whatever, if that's your thing. But having already dealt with that over 20 years, I feel fairly confident in saying that the vast majority could give a shit. Like, for
Yeah.
real though, like, just as the admission that you made, and I want you to repeat that because many may not have listened to that recording that you did with Chrysalin in terms of what your ex-husband told you. Like, that
Yeah.
was a
Yes.
train wreck. That was a train wreck. Like,
Mhm.
if Black women do not hear that, you will continue to repeat this false drama, this false
Mhm.
story, that this fairy tale that you are out here saving brothers from the big bad wolf man or whatever, because that is negating the fact that people don't have free will, that people don't exactly know what they're, you know what I mean? Like, aside from lack of education, lack of, having a role model or whatever, we have root emotions. We understand when we're using and abusing people. We understand when we are manipulating people. That doesn't require, a PhD to understand that. So share with them what you told her during that recording.
Absolutely. Well, my oldest son's father, who is a very, high profile attorney, very, um, uh, just, I've known him since I was 15 years old. And we were in a
Right?
conversation, and he calls me P, after he calls me P, he was like, yo, the best advice I can give any woman is to date, this is a Black man, is to date an affluent man. And I said,
Mm.
oh, He's like, I was like, oh yeah, because I'm not having it. He's like, but here's the thing, everything that everything that you and a lot of women that become aware are despising and want to really bring and surface to the consciousness of Black women about what Black men do to them, it's absolutely true. We're running game. 99.9% of the time we're running game, and we do have access to as much valuable pussy as we can handle, and we decide which one of y'all we're gonna take home. And a man has to get to a state of consciousness where he decides, okay, this is when I'm gonna marry. And then he said, even after they marry, they still have, because of the desperation in Black women, they still have access to free poom poom. He said, it's not hallucination. This is facts. I lived this. We both know what went down. It's true.
Mm.
This is not something that Black women are making up in their minds, or they hate Black men or things like that. We're running game. We did this. We lie. We do all this stuff, and then we push it back on you at the value or the expense of the culture. So we get a lot of stuff just written off. But the reality is, it's what we want to do. It's what we want to do. And
So in
yes,
other words,
he had his share with Becky's. The reality of having an honest, down, just raw conversation is like, yeah, and this is not the first and only person that has said, that's what we do. And we contribute to that because we can, and because we can get away with it, and because we can not be held accountable.
right.
That's what we do. So it's not fairy tale, or it's not male bashing. It's none of that. It's just bringing the forefront and speaking it into the light that this is the experience of majority of women of color across the country. And so it's really, really important to acknowledge that was like profound, because in the conversation we had, and even though we've gone through many different cycles over the last 16 years, 17 years, that was the first time out of his mouth he said, I did that.
Meaning what? Like clarify. Like you're saying, when he's saying this is what we do, just for the sisters that may have missed it, and let's just, bring it back to the forefront. When you're saying this is what we do, you're saying that we pair women against each other, create this competitive situation. We elevate Becky over everybody else, and then,
right,
but we'll sleep with you, but we're not going to actually take care of you and your children.
Right. And what he was saying was, we have the luxury of sleeping with as many of you as possible without being held accountable for that behavior, because it always is tied back to slavery. Everything is tied back to slavery for us. So there's nothing about my behavior that would be unusual to a woman. I can hit a woman. I can leave a woman with a child. I can sleep with multiple women when I'm married. These are facts.
Mm-hmm.
And this is coming from a man that lived through the experience of doing those things. So it's not, oh, male bashing. He's like, you're absolutely correct. He said, if I were searching for a wife or a husband or whatever, he's like, I wouldn't even deal with non-affluent men. If they can't make the money, that tells you they cannot afford you. An attorney that is licensed in 3 states, as an attorney, has a doctoral degree in law, a master's degree in cryptocurrency, says this is the reality for the average Black man. They did that, and he had to own that part. And so we've had many conversations over the years, and have a really stable and productive relationship now. But it was just really interesting to hear him say, if they're not affluent, don't date them. If they're not affluent and they're in their 40s, late 30s and 40s, they're playing the games. They're playing the game. And they're just intentionally running through women.
Right.
It's not something he
because
heard.
they can.
Because they can.
It's a candy shop. I mean, and women. So the other side of it is that, this is not a male bashing. This is about reality, and I don't care. Like, y'all do whatever you do on another channel, whatever. I'm not here. We've already been through it. It's not about male bashing. It's about facts. It's about being real, and it's about supporting women from a womanist point of view and not a feminist point of view. And so in doing that, I'm going to bring in the other side of it, which is if a man, an well-educated, affluent man, Black man is saying this about what he's able to do and what his cohorts, he's not in a vacuum by himself. He has fellow brothers, Kappa, whatever that thing is, the Greeks, whatever, I don't know. But he's got all of them, and they all have similar experiences. And he's relating that. There has to be a second part of the party, which means there has to be women there available and giving their vagina and everything else for free and giving it away for them to be running through all of these, unless you're going to call all of them rapists. So in other words, we have to look at our part also, that we are allowing them to run through us, and we don't have standards. We've not been taught. We have not been made aware of the competitive field that other cultures and other women's mothers make their girls aware of, that you can't go out in this world rickety. You can't go out in this world in your house shoes and your house rollers and, jacked up every time you go out to Walmart. Like, you can't be doing that, because there is an entire world of women that you are, quote unquote, competing against. You can decide not to, buy into that, and you can decide that that's not real and that that's not fair, because all of America is about what's fair, when meanwhile nothing is fair. But it is what it is, and you are getting the results of it, because when you walk with your bonnet and your rag and your house coat and everything in stores, looking raggedy, talking any kind of way, doing anything you want, and you're expecting respect, and that's just one level. There is the other level of the highly educated sister who has multiple degrees, but yet who is completely masculine in her outlook and in her presentation in life. And then she also is wondering why. And she's also bought into the narrowed storyline that she is not able and she's not allowed to open her options because women are more loyal than men. And I'm just going to say it like that. And the proof is in the pudding. We have
Yes.
been statistically more loyal. Now, though we are opening up in rapidly expanding numbers over the
Right.
past 5 years, but historically, the Census Bureau, the statistics, all of that will prove that men have been cross-cultural marrying and whatever for many more decades than Black women have. And we've been sitting here waiting around and hoping for the best. Meanwhile, we have been left with the fallout of raising children because Black men haven't stopped sleeping with us. They just don't marry us.
Right.
And so we're having these children and we're going through all of that and we're becoming more and more masculine. We're not understanding why. And so through the various stratums of social echelons, we are all dealing with various manifestations of a neglect and a starvation of our femininity. And by
Yes.
returning to that, we would understand that just like many other cultures, there is a competition for the fittest of the fittest. Okay, whether it's East Indian, whether it's Asian, whether it's Romanian, whether it's whatever, they all understand that your main goal in life, if you want to have a healthy and happy life, is to maintain and nourish your femininity. And then
Yes.
all else flows from that, whether it be a productive marriage where you don't have to work 60 hours a week, come home, cook and clean, service him with sex, do the yard work, take out the trash. You're doing all of that and he's kicked back. You know what I mean? Or you're going to live the life of a woman who's well cared for. And then you're complaining, oh, well, I couldn't, because I mean, who would sell their vagina, who would sell their virginity for 2.5 million? Like, isn't that prostitution? And oh, you're just a sugar baby, you're just a gold digger, you just all of these things. But you have to understand who taught you this stuff, who taught
Right.
you to think negatively about a woman wanting to fulfill the fullness of her role as a man fulfills his role. Who taught you that it's a problem to be a so-called gold digger?
Right.
Who has those problems? It's broke men.
Right.
Who can't afford a woman and who want you to be a man beside them and pay the bills and do this and do that. Plus, not just pay the bills, because a lot of women stop at that. And you seem to somehow set in the back burner, have the babies, carry for 9 months, do the delivery, and then worry and ragged yourself with these children in daycares from the point that they're 2 to 3 month old. As a woman, if it's not affecting you, you've been completely lost. That
Yes.
it doesn't bother you that when your child is 2, 3, or 6 months old and they're going off to these people, and then of course you go through this whole rigmarole of finding the best church service and the best daycare, and oh, they really care for my child, and Susie over there is really sweet and all of that, and you make yourself feel better. But the bottom line is you have bought into this story that somebody else is supposed to take care of your children while you are paying half the bills for homie, Jerry, or whoever, Kwame, who cannot do it himself, and and it's expecting you to do it all. And then you've bought into this feminist thing that you're supposed to do it all. And you're supposed to do that and work 60-hour weeks, drive and commute, pick up the child from daycare, and then rush through some microwave dinner. Nobody's nourished well. Everybody's jacked up and upset and stressed out. The baby's screaming. They haven't seen you all day. And hence the psychological issues, the ADD. Then you're doing the vaccinations. You're going, it's a cycle. But somebody told you that it was okay because you're a strong Black woman and you can do it all and all of that. Meanwhile, you're stressed. You've got uterine cancer. You've got fibroids. You've got all of these breast cancer, diabetes, hypertension. But you're a strong Black woman and you can handle it all. And meanwhile, Kwame's sitting over here, you know what I'm saying, sitting on the couch drinking his beer, watching the game. Roll Tide or whatever the hell they say. You know what I mean? Like it's the Cowboys and it's the Roll Tide, and Kwame's over here doing all of this, and you're over here dying. But you got a problem with somebody selling their virginity for 2.5 and
Right,
getting paid
right.
and
And
living their life.
dying
Oh my
slowly because
God.
we
I
bought into,
can't.
just like you said, like it is you cannot be in your full feminine power, work a full-time job, a full-time
Yes.
mother, and full-time financial responsibility. That is a
Mm,
recipe for death.
yes.
I don't
And you
care how
sign up for
strong
it. You
you
sign up
are.
for it.
Yes, right. Because what it means in Black culture is that there's an expectation that because you have a degree or because you work, you should be contributing financially. Why don't we have
Right.
a marriage culture in which the man actually can afford wives? We don't have a marriage culture. We have
We
people
don't.
that get married, but we don't have
Right.
a marriage culture where the men are driven to marry.
Right.
And the reality of the matter is, as long as there's no marriage culture in place from the alpha males in Black culture, it is going to rob the feminine nature of women.
Say that
It is
again.
going to require
Say that for the
that the
people in the
feminine
back.
nature of Black women be eradicated.
Right.
Be
It has to
eradicated.
be. It has
Yes,
to
it
be.
has to be, because there's no way possible if the finances are not there. How are the children going to eat? Where are they going to live? These are all
Right.
things that a woman in her feminine power should not be um, worried about if she's having children for a man.
Right.
And so,
Not at all.
it's nonsense. So here's the deal: as long as we don't have a marriage driven culture, the femininity of Black women is consistently eroded. And when I say femininity, we're talking about a value system placed on motherhood, wifehood, and children.
Right.
A value system.
Right.
We don't value mothers. We don't
Right. We
value
don't.
wives.
We don't.
We don't value
We don't
children.
value
We,
children.
we
No, we
don't even
don't.
value our parents when they get old.
Right.
We have no value in that structure. And until that is rebuilt, i.e., enough women begin to regain their femininity. And you can start with something as simple as a daily self-care routine. We have to start radiating higher. We cannot continue to work off the problems of Black culture. We
Right.
can't work
Girl,
enough
stop
to solve them.
it.
We can't work enough to solve these problems.
And it's not your place. If it was so-called alpha kings and all of that in place and all of these kings and all of that, it should have been fixed or it should be worked on actively. Like women and our children should be able to walk these streets and not be harassed and
Mm-hmm.
molested and carrying on. Like you've had a few communities and it just made us like we just made such a huge deal out of it, and give thanks, but it actually should have been commonplace in every community where there are beings with a penis.
Yes.
Where the brothers get out and start patrolling neighborhoods, walk around, but like it's celebrated because one neighborhood in one city in the entire United States, you know what I'm saying? Like, or I mean, I'm exaggerating, maybe it's two or
Right.
three, but the men that actually stood up and said, we are going to, regardless of what we do in the day, we are going to start patrolling these streets at night so that we make sure that our young sons are not being accosted by cops or not doing this and not that. And our young women can walk the streets without being harassed by these little knuckleheads and all of that. Like it took a massive thing. But where is that nationwide? Even though there's kangs all over Facebook, there's kangs and all of that going on, and there's onks, and everybody's doing all of this stuff. But
Right.
where is that nationwide where, like that one community where the brothers were walking and patrolling the streets and caring and securing the neighborhood and the environment for their women and their children? There's not. And I don't care which, whatever you want to bring to me, bring me the statistics. Where are the communities of these kings that are doing that? So if you're not doing that, but you're on Facebook talking all this mac, like that is not valuable enough for a woman to reduce her standards and open up her reproductive, you know, vessel for a man who's not worthy, who cannot protect and provide. Trayvon,
Absolutely.
all of these children are out in the street getting. Where are y'all? Where are y'all for these children that y'all are producing?
Absolutely. Because the reality is, just because we have a culture, Black culture, doesn't value marriage and femininity, doesn't mean the world doesn't. And so we have to expand our options. This is not
Right.
someone in the post said, does it mean that Black women should date non-Black men? I think that you should definitely set those options, your worth, to yourself first, and you can decide if that's a path for you. But I know
Mm-hmm.
one thing is not clear: to continue to look in the same place and get the same results. So there
Is a
has to be
recipe for
a determination.
craziness.
Yes, there has to be a determination to extend and expand your options into a global arena, which means that, unlike in Black culture, where your providership and your hardship and your strongness count, in a global world, your femininity, your gracefulness, and what you contribute inside of the marriage and the family, that's the mechanism that really propels marriages and families. So I think that the reverse has to happen. Like, once the woman start investing in herself, she has that self-worth, that self-confidence to know beyond a shadow of a doubt exactly what she wants out of this life, and to go out and expand her options, mean that you're going to have to adjust to a global environment. That can be a non-Black man, that can be a Black man, but it can also be a white man, an Asian man, any man of that matches your values, because the most important thing is values over race.
Mm-hmm.
Value systems. Do they value marriage? Are they not just word of mouth? Do they have structural things in place that says, I have a home to come to, I have savings for my children's college, I value your femininity enough to respect you, not to watch you die over 30 years. Because I respect you, I can't watch you do that to yourself. I can't watch your ankles swell up, your womb become filled with ovarian cancers, you drop your babies out at 9 months at work. Because I love you, I can't do that. I can't watch that. So that means I'm preparing a space for you and my children.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so what I'm saying is that we have to, especially as Black women, begin to expand our options, not
Mm-hmm.
race options of, oh, I'm just going to go out and find a white man, or go out. You can find a white man with the same value systems of a poor, broke Black man.
Right.
You want to crystallize, your value system, and
Right.
prioritize your femininity. If
Right.
you do those two things, you will automatically be able to attract and gravitate towards a proper selected mate for yourself, and marry that person, and be able to create what it is that you want. But you
Right.
cannot keep sorting through trauma and hope to get
Right.
lucky. It's not going to happen like
Right.
that.
Right.
It's not going to happen like
Right.
that. So those sisters that are so committed to the trauma, that's your path. And there's nothing I can recommend on that, because for me personally, I can't allocate my time on earth to trauma. I can't do that. Once I know better, I have to act better. And act better means you prioritize the value for your lineage, your offspring, your children, over the comfort of staying small in the same environment with people that you're used to. You just have to
Right.
prioritize.
Right. Right. And I mean, it's you know what, and I have to apologize because I set some weird setting on my phone, and so I'm only seeing the live viewers. I'm not actually able to see the comments on my phone, so I had to go to my I had to go to my laptop to actually see all these comments. So I'm quite sure that I have missed so many, critical comments. So I really want to thank you all for participating in this and, sharing it. Now I'm finally looking on my laptop. I'm seeing all these daggone juicy comments. What in the world? But
on here. I see one on here, Leah, that says money does not make a family, but it does help pay the bills. So people and use it for falsehood. Money does make a family. It does.
You know what? And then I mean, I just want to, because I saw another one that said, how can you sell your soul for money? I would ask, how can you bring souls into the third dimension where money is required?
Yes.
And you do not have the power to create a world wherein we can eat air, wherein we can survive off of air and not, like, you know, pee and pass and do everything else that we need to. If you have not, Anu, Apsu, whatever, if you personally, as I'm assuming you are a male, a king, if you have not created an environment and a world and totally changed the entire game to where you are able to secure your children so that they can eat air, that they can absorb molecules and particles out of the air in order to eat, and so that they live in a world where clothing, that they can go into the bank, that they can go to schools, that they can go into Whole Foods or the farmer's market, wherever y'all eat, and completely naked, no clothes. And you've got all of the necessary requirements in order to make the firewood, the candles, candlelight, and all of that. And so if you want to live in this utopian, please let me know which one you created, so that all of the Hotep sisters and all of them that are very much interested in this lifestyle, that they can go and be with you and help you to live your utopian lifestyle. I need for you to let me know, because I am so sick of brothers coming in with their nonsense BS, their nonsense utopian ass BS, that have backed up fucking ass child support from 50 fucking ass years ago. Excuse my French, but I am so sick of these assholes who are on here and have selling this bullshit to women who are buying this. And this whole bullshit about how can you sell yourself soul for money. I bet you your ass is on the fucking internet and somebody's paying your goddamn bill for you to be up on here talking up in my chat. Who's paying your internet so that you can sit up here and be on Facebook Live? Somebody had to sell their soul in order for you to get up here and talk this BS. But meanwhile, sisters are buying this bullshit day in and day out, and y'all don't have a fucking pot to piss in. You don't have anything to provide for your family but some bullshit ass lies and controversial bullshit, powerless ass shit. Excuse me. Okay? I am so over y'all. Like, yeah, go sit and do some chanting on somebody else's feed, because we don't care. The sisters are over it. We are not allowing our wombs to you and your dick that needed something in order to eat, so you could have the energy to interrupt in our wombs to make these babies, for you to sit up on Facebook and talk about how your soul, money, and all of this bullshit. You needed that money from somewhere to get your energy up so that your dick could get hard enough to make these children. I'm over it. I'm over these Negroes with this bullshit and these bullshit ass names. Ain't nobody called Anu and all of that. Kwame or Daquan, whatever the fuck your name is. I don't care. Like, I'm over it. Like, women, we need to stop. I mean, I just had my moment. Excuse me. But I'm so over these Negroes with these made up names and these made up spiritual systems that are bamboozling these women to have these babies behind these men that they don't even support, that they can't even take care of. And they on somebody's dime in these chats talking this shit, because you got to have internet in order to sit up on here and talk this shit. Somebody's got to pay for this phone bill. So either you got a cell phone. Who paid for your cell phone? Which sister? Which sister in your kingdom paid for your cell phone to sit up here and talk this madness?
And that's all it is.
Since no money is necessary to survive. You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely. It's absolute
Oh my
nonsense.
God.
It's absolute nonsense. But you know what? It's so interesting
Ah,
that these kings just, you know, that's just really pathetic. You know, you just really have to just, they're pathetic. And really, the
it
reality
is. It
is, it,
is.
it's brainwashing that has us in the position of, in 2018, we're still talking about femininity and returning our women back to that natural state. And it's because
Right.
of conversation like, no, everybody's not going to go to the land and eat off the land and live like that. No, everybody's
Right.
not going to do that. We're
Right.
talking about in 2018, it's going to take wealth and it's going to take money. And it's going to take the institution of marriage and family to provide that. So if you're not going to your first institution of family, if you're not orienting yourself towards that, then to me, you're not a healthy, functioning man. Because men should have that natural drive to want to establish families for child, please don't
Right.
go
Right.
on a
This one
new.
here, he's working on his own land and whatever. You can do that, but get off of my chat. Like do that and get your harem that's interested in sitting up 5,000 years waiting on you, talking about you working and all of that. I don't care because we've had brothers like you for 40, 50, 60 years talking this bullshit and
Nonsense.
nothing has been done. And so when we wake up, here you come with your little lame broke ass talking about some shit. Like I don't care. Like I've really gotten to that stage, but that's only after I was left freaking homeless by asses like you. You know what I'm saying? Like literally homeless, like foreclosed on my home, nothing to feed my children, but your hopes and your dreams and your bullshit, which is not feeding these women and these children that
Yeah.
you're producing and all of this bullshit ass story. And so I am here, if I'm here for it. I am here for these women to hear me
Yes.
understand that at 46, y'all 20-year-olds who are listening to these bullshit ass con artists who are talking about they got land and they got a job and they're doing this and they're doing that. If you do not have clear wealth, if you do not have a clear plan, if you do not have something that is valuable that can actually feed your children before they even come, do not listen to these con artists. Because as
Yeah.
women, as 40s and our 50s and all of that, we've already been through that. We've been listening to these assholes for 20 years and they've not done shit for us, but have these shit ass stories about how they're working and they're doing this and they're doing that. And it's all these fucking ass stories about building and they're powerless as hell. They're not competing on the world market, and they got these small dicks and these small minds that are not about anything in terms of competing on the real world and getting your women to the status that they can hold their heads up like every other woman in this
Yeah.
world. Until you can do that, do not talk to me about what money you're going to sell your soul. Bitch, where's your money to feed this soul? That's what I want to know.
Absolutely.
Where's your money to feed this soul? Where's this money to feed all the souls that you are creating with your little stories? Like for real though. Like I'm not having it. Like get the fuck off. Let me block this. Get off of my thread. Get off of my page. I'm not doing it. Like not right now. We have been through too much revolution to deal with these little numb skulls with their little bullshit ass plans. And if any little pick me child wants to go and deal with this, more power to you, honey. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
what to tell you. I
And
don't know
that's
what to tell you. At 46, I can tell you the reality. You can go
absolutely
live that dream, but I can tell you the reality,
right.
which is nothing. It's zero.
Absolutely. And so I really think that, um, as women see this, like, I think this is a good thing that people see that the, just backwardness of that. You know, we're talking about women in
Absolutely
that
not.
femininity, and he's talking about going to the land. So this is a clear indication of the mindset of so many, um, men in a culture that really are not marriage driven. They're not family driven.
Absolutely not.
They just want
Absolutely
to hop
not.
on to say, I have land or I have the. That
He
means
has
absolutely nothing.
zero. He just
Nothing.
told you
Absolutely.
he has nothing. He told
Yes.
you point blank he has nothing. And somehow sisters find this sexy. You know what I mean? Like we find some Negro coming up in here talking all this nonsense, we find that sexy because we have been groomed into
Yes,
this poverty and struggle love mentality where a man's worth is about his ideals. It's
yes,
about his concepts. It's not about his ability to actually produce.
right.
It's not about his. So we've got this whole concept that his virility is really tied to his ability to weave numerous stories and dreams and concepts that have no factual basis on actually supporting all of these. What is the percentage? 73% of children that are born out of wedlock in the Black
Yes.
community. So no, I don't want to hear it. I do not. Like I I can't. I really
Yes.
can't. So yes, he was blocked. Excuse me for my French, everyone, but I cannot. I cannot. Not in this day and time. Sir,
He's
no,
going
ma'am.
anew.
Mm-mm.
So moving on. So
Mm-mm.
moving on.
Mm-mm.
So that he just,
Moving on.
that's
Let me get
his,
some lip gloss behind this, honey. He requires lip gloss. I don't care. I don't know. Oh
but
my
you know,
God.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad that we were able to see just that the women that are that are going to watch this video can see the logic that we're talking about. This is a perfect example of the bullshit logic that has us at a 73% out of wedlock rate and poverty, sheer poverty as women.
Yes.
This is what it is. This is the mindset of it. And so it's just really clear that, as women watching this and kind of going through the feed and listening to the conversation, this is the mindset that's lurking out there for build a nation, build, build this, build. This is the mindset you want to stay away from. That kind of
Yes.
mindset will rob you of every piece of femininity you have in you.
And your lifeblood, your life source. Yes.
Because the reality is the fact that he's still building, meaning he cannot provide. The fact that
he wants your sex. He wants your sex, and he wants you to have children,
provide.
and he wants you to believe in him, which we've
Right.
been doing for 40 years. Right.
Yes, absolutely. So Anu is gone,
You know.
but I'm so glad we had this. What we can do for the sisters that are in their right mind, that are looking to regain a sense of worth. Because when we have a sense of worth, conversations like this, we can laugh them off like that. Like you can just blow them off like, bye.
Boy,
Bye,
bye.
boy.
Bye.
Go about your business. You know what I mean? Because you
Yes.
ain't got no time and attention here. So I think it's
Absolutely.
so important that we regain that sense of worth to ourselves with self-care and how do we want to develop our feminine practices, our womanly arts, like the things that really make us whole, and to use that energy to attract a partner and a mate that's on that same frequency. You shouldn't have to invest in yourself and establish your worth and then go and build a man. You should not have to do that at all.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. Absolutely. No, ma'am. Because no other woman, like, you know what? And that reminds me, and I know amongst the 5,000 other conversations that we have scheduled for the future, but it is so important for, I think, and I would love for any woman who is actually listening to this recording or who shares it with a friend to actually commit to traveling in 2018. Get out of, do whatever you have to do to get out of survival mode and flourish, because there is nothing like traveling outside. Now, I'm not talking about going to your next city or your next state. I am saying get out of the United States. If there is nothing that, if you want to backtrack into your conscious days, if there's nothing that they would not like you to do, is actually travel outside of the cage, is actually get outside. Because when you see an entire globe that is living, that is loving, that is real, that is able to still connect on a human level, that are able to still vibe on levels that honor the male, the masculine and feminine energies, you get out of this myopic, ridiculous situation that Blackistan has you in as Black women. If you can, we can talk about it all you want, but if you can actually get to India, get to Mongolia, go to Italy, go to Rwanda,
Yes.
Ghana, like see different women in different environments and how they interact with the male energy and what the expectations are. You cannot say that you are a fully functioning being, particularly if you are solely concentrating in your entire experience and experiential data on America. Like, this is a scientific experiment that we all understand that is carefully constructed based on a concept that both men and women are pack mules. And if you do not get outside of this and understand that there is an entire globe that is actually operating on human levels
Yes.
and not on scientific experimental levels that have been manufactured by marketing, by TV, by norms, by social media, by all these stupid articles on feminism where women are talking about, is a man getting on his knee proposing to you oppressive as to you as a woman, where you have this entire construct that you are living in and buying in and breathing. I mean, when I was living outside of the States and I came back, it wasn't until I was out and I came back that I realized, even at the airport, when I came back after 4 years of being out of the States, how heavy this air is. It is the air, literally the atmosphere, the energy in the air, it is heavy. It weighs on you like you're like everything that you freed up as you were out of the States, when you return into the States, it's just like it's such a heavy weight. The weight of oppression and wrongs and lack of apology and lack of right thinking, it is heavy. It is like, you think about humidity when you step outside, when you live in Texas and you open your door and you're just mad because it's 100% humidity and it's just like dripping on you. That's what I want to say, that is what but if you've not been outside of America, you have no idea. You have no idea what you have accustomed yourself to.
Yes.
And so women, Black women in particular, travel, understand that the air is different that you breathe, the foods are different, the relational aspects of life are different, and that there is an entire globe of men. Don't worry about what Mitgal and all these crazy ass Negroes on YouTube and everyone else are saying about you. There's an entire globe that loves the Black woman, that would appreciate having the attention and the company of a Black woman and a dark-skinned Black woman. We're not talking about the J-Lo or whatever, but we're not doing all the colorism, but we're talking about Black women. Like, there are people who appreciate you, who would love your attention, who would love a conversation with you, who would love to take you to dinner. And you're dealing with all these scrubs over here talking about what do you bring to the table and trying to take you to Denny's so that they can get some Netflix and like, I can't even describe to you what you're missing. For real though, what you're missing. But you also have to level up. Like, you can't go as Ratchet Betty over here, just acting out like, you got to get yourself together. But for those who take the time, level up, get yourself together, get yourself capable of interacting on an international level, and then travel. Don't believe all of these lies over here that they have you marinating in, that nobody wants the Black woman, that nobody cares about you, that if you're not, light, bright, and white, that you're not worthy, that it's not this, it's not that, oh, you got to pay half the bills. Nobody's doing that. Like,
no.
I mean, I'm not saying nobody, like, that's, I'm just saying, you know what I mean? Like, even in France, where they have, the child family plan, where, what is it, 2-3 years? I don't know, however many years you get off after having a child.
Canada as
Like
well.
Canada,
Yeah.
Netherlands, I don't know. It's just like everywhere value, not everywhere, clearly, because you have your
Right.
Sharia laws, you got all that going on in various countries. I'm just saying there are so many places that value and welcome the feminine energy. And you sit up here stuck in Chicago, in the hood somewhere in Detroit, I don't know, whatever it is, and that's
Right.
not reality. America is not reality.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's also
You
in
know,
Canada. It's also in Canada you get time off years with your babies and your mate. Like you get not only the best health care in the world, but they foster healthy marriages and families. So this is definitely not a representation of what the world has to offer Black women, because this is just
right.
a place where it's constricted. But outside of here, it's very, very different.
Even
Absolutely.
for the husbands. I mean, even the
Yes.
husbands get time off.
Yes.
Because again, what? There's the marriage culture. It's not the
Mm-hmm.
hit it and quit it culture and the
Yes.
club and the strip club culture that is taken over America. It is real culture. Like it is people that value family. And
Yes.
so like that is, I mean, sisters, like write it out, put it on your mirror, do whatever you have to do, travel in 2018 and open your mind, open your horizons, just say I'm a clean slate
Yes.
and I'm going to experience life not as a Black American, not as a woman, not as a Black American woman, but I'm just going to experience life. And then I
Yes.
may filter life through a feminine energy, but give yourself the opportunity to really experience the freedom that comes with life. All of these chains and all of this stuff that we're doing, I could go into just so much on even the law of attraction in terms of, yes, you have political stuff going on here. Yes, you have the most horrific, foreign political policies, all of that going on. But I want
Right.
to say that on a day to day basis, if you can say that you understand the law of attraction in your own personal life, then you can certainly understand the law of attraction on a racial perspective. Do you see what
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying? And
Mm.
so, why is it that certain people amongst our so-called race are not experiencing certain things that others are?
Yes.
Um, and it's a touchy subject. You can say what you want to say, but if you are vibrating and looking for pigs every day and looking for abusive and looking for this and looking for that and the man, and now you've got your armor on, you're super defensive, you talking back to you talking any kind of way to everybody, you attitudinal, you already expecting the man to do this and do that to you. Well, your likelihood of experiencing that, not to say that even there's been men who are just in their Wall Street suits and whatever that experience things. But I'm saying on a day to day level, if we as women are able to experience more time with our femininity, more time in the home, and nourish our children more, they wouldn't be going out into the streets in such a deficit and in such a mode where they're already expecting murder
Yes.
from the time they step out the door. They are not necessarily living in areas where they are expecting like it's everything is related. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? And you can say
Yes.
what you want, but I've already been through the 20 years of the, quote unquote conscious community. I get all the arguments. But at the end of the day, what saved me and what saved my life and what elevated my life with clear facts
Right.
is the law of attraction, alchemy, universal laws, and what I attract and what I instill in my children is what they attract. And if you're attracting constant murder and mayhem and this and that and black on black and all of that, all of that, all of that, then that's what you're going to keep getting. But if you're
Yes.
attracting wealth and abundance and expansion and not considering constricted values that, oh, I'm black, so I can't study this. Oh, I'm black, so I can't speak this way of English. I got to only speak that Ebonics. I got to do this. Oh, there's all of these dysfunctional modes of living that we do because we're thinking about so-called race loyalty. We're thinking about so-called this, but All of our great leaders never asked us for that.
Absolutely.
If you ask Malcolm X when he went into prisons and all of that, he came out. What did he do? He read some goddamn books.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, he read. He didn't sit on the corner talking smack about Whitey and this and what and that. He went in there and he read some books.
Right.
He educated himself. He so-called talked like Whitey in order to, after he got out. If y'all want to, oh, you talking like the white man. Oh, you reading the book. Oh, you do. Well, what did he do? Marcus Garvey. What did all of these leaders do? They educated themselves. They got themselves to a place, and these are the blackest of our leaders. You know,
Absolutely.
our scholars. What were they doing? They were reading books. They were studying. They were analyzing. They weren't sitting on the street corner being kings with aunts,
Absolutely.
jewelry, and shit. You know, they were scholars. And that's who has got us the farthest, even though most of us haven't listened to them. But that's who got us there. So we have to really reorganize our thinking that being educated and studying and getting off the street and sitting somewhere, sit your behind down and study, learn, do the work that's required to get you out of that. Learn finance, learn Bitcoin, go here, go there. That's what's going to get you something. Not sitting somewhere on Facebook being a king. You know what I'm saying? With your jewelry and all of that and your commentaries. That's not doing it. And you got back child support. Go pay that.
Absolutely. And you know what's so interesting is,
oh my God.
as we kind of migrate back to our original levels of feminine nature and our femininity, we also tap into something that's really not talked about a lot among Black women. It is our ability to pursue our womanly arts of ritual and magic. Because on one level, we can look at what's happening to us and we can regain. This is an opportunity, like a gateway, I think, for us. If we could just expand our options out,
right,
then we also expand the reach of our femininity out in terms of magic and in terms of not just, wishful thinking, but to use that law of attraction. And also as we get really, really deep into the womanly arts, we get into astral projection and we get into spaces where, even though it's 2 million of us, to Black men, you have the ability to go into the darkest of darkest matter and pull everything you
just
need.
like that.
No, on so many levels.
Yes.
Our femininity, yes, our natural ability to go into the ether, to go into the actual space of magic,
right,
and command out what it is that we want for our lives. This is so different from begging.
Girl, yes.
So different from
begging for attention.
Someone to do right by us, to
Girl,
take
yes.
us in, to stay for your children. There is an undeniable, wealthy, abundant partner and lover that you have the ability to connect with on so many levels.
Yes.
And so if we embrace that femininity and begin to do the research, like you mentioned, of what is possible of a woman in her femininity, it's magic. It's being able to command your life experience. This is not dependent on whether or not a man or a person is going to love you. This is a natural resource of a woman in her feminine nature.
And let me just piggyback on this real quick, and then I want to keep your thought. Do you see how powerful, like, it builds on itself? So when you're saying that a woman in her space and able to flourish and nourish her feminine aspect, can you imagine if even 40% of our women were able to relax and get into that mode and place their blessing on these children before they walk out of the home.
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine what would change in terms of police brutality, in terms of even our children's behavior when they walk out of the home? But imagine what would happen. But because things are not in place, because women are not able to call upon that magic, because we're strained, stressed, and in survival mode, and all of that, we are not able to fully cover our children because we're throwing them out into the world 24/7, and we're running off to work.
And here's the thing that's so interesting. A man that truly understands that if I have my wife in survival mode, my children will not benefit from this marriage. My children won't have a future.
You're right. You're right.
Nourished.
You're right.
So
you're absolutely right.
What he said to you when he asked for 50% of the rent or 50% of you pay your share of the bills and you got to work full time and take, what he's saying to you is indirectly, I have not even planned for the nature and the proper development of my offspring. Because if that had value to me, I would never take their mother from them. These are all things that, really and truly marriage culture understands and supports. But when a woman is in her feminine nature, she's able to do a lot of magical things. And when she's able to do a lot, she's automatically by nature able to conserve resources, able to save money, able to invest, able to grow the family business, able to check homework, able to go and take care of herself. There's so many things that happen when a woman is in a natural feminine state and not forced into providing.
Absolutely.
And that providing, whether that's middle class or whether that's upper class, that providing structure keeps you in survival mode. At all times. So you're not able to use any of your femininity for the benefit of your husband, your children, your family.
All of that.
You're concerned with how am I gonna pay the power bill? Where's
exactly.
Exactly. It's
exactly
survival mode is what it is.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly. And I mean that just compounds upon itself. So sisters, like, I mean, like when Sister Portia and I get together, and I've already spoken to her about, we're gonna, really work on putting together some events in Atlanta area, and travel out into it, because there are so many aspects of this that are so important. But as I mentioned to Sister Mel on my Facebook, it is literally life and death for us at this stage. Because as Sister Connie mentioned in the other video that I had with her, where she was saying, what was it, by 2050, that the Black families' accumulated wealth would be zero, not $20, not, you know what I'm saying, but like our net worth would be zero. So when we look at our health problems, when we look at our vulnerable children out in the system that are not protected, when we look at the numbers of children growing up without a valuable male presence in the home, it is life or death. I don't know at what stage you want to call it life or death, but as far as I'm concerned, in 2018, if it wasn't in 2000, which it was already life and death, if it wasn't in 1990, which was approaching life or death, surely in 2018, if not 2020, in 2 years, people, 2020, it is life or death. That women, if we don't wake ourselves up and begin to understand, as they say, if you train a woman, you will educate a nation. There are so many things that women can do and instill within ourselves that will completely transform. Because if women close our, pocketbooks, if we close our legs, if we close everything else, somebody's gonna have to transform. if 90% of us decide to say, hell no, Negro, no, okay, we're not doing it. We're
Yes.
not about that life anymore. And you're going to have to come up off of this and you're going to have to move into the next phase of your development. If we were doing that, imagine they would have no choice because sex is too important to them. The female, as much as they claim that it's not important and it's bitches and hoes and I don't love this bros over hoes and they got all that going on, but the bottom line is they need women, just as women need them. But surely the impetus for change would have to be, the onus for change would have to be on the women, because we
Yes.
have to reclaim our time. We have to
Yes.
reclaim our vaginas. We have to reclaim our finances, and we
Yes.
have to reclaim our femininity, and we have to reclaim our relationships and our right to be women in this dispensation of time and
Yes.
explore and express and enjoy the feminine principles of life without all of this social media, hysteria going on. So what I want to say is that we are fired up right now. Like, the sisters are over it. We are tired. We are exhausted. Our adrenal glands are shot. Our root chakra is busted. We are exhausted. And we have all of these millions of children out here who are being raised through our choices and through the choices of the men that we laid with, who are not, having adequate fathers in the home. We got our own issues that we have to straighten out and understand. The true power of femininity is not the masculine bullshit that we've been buying into. And we have to travel. We have to open our lives. We have to value our lives to the point of this woman who's not a sister, who has 2.5 million. And I'm here to tell you, if I had the frame of mind back then, and 2.5 million, where I could have secured my life, invested in whatever, I wish I was that smart. I'm just putting it out on Facebook right now. I wish I was that smart. Instead of going for the okie doke, got zero, didn't even get a damn meal out of the situation. You know what I'm saying? Didn't even get a damn meal out of it. Okay. And that's how valuable it is to other people who live in a world that we can't even comprehend, because we're so busy eating at McDonald's and thinking that everything that, that nothing that we have is of value. Yep. And I pointed that out to show you that there are people who are living, who are competing with us, who are doing what they can to look like us in terms of certain body features and whatnot, who are grabbing up the men who look like us, who have financials. They might not be as smart as they need to be, because Tiger Woods is an asshole. Like, he's stupid. Like, who would do that? You know what I'm saying? But he had the money and the finances, and if we were smart enough, we would have taken that damn money and ran with it and then done something with it, like she did. Yeah. Because what did she do? She was just waiting on him to act like an asshole and to take his money, and she did. Now she's living on some island or whatever in Norway, and she's paid. And she was a receptionist. It wasn't even like the American girls who go to Cambridge to just go off and get married to a man. She was like, she just came out of nowhere, just Norway or whatever. But she had the concept that it is a man, that she is supposed to find a man of means, and she's supposed to set herself up. And we over here talking about, oh, she's just a gold digger. Oh, she's just whatever. But you're sitting over here broke, gave all your goodies and your cookies away for free, and you have nothing to answer for it. And you got 3, 4, 5 kids that nobody's paying child support on. But you're talking about her, who came over here and got her money and got her life and is set up with her children in some island somewhere in Norway or whatever. And she's good for the rest of her life. So who's the idiot? Yeah. You with all your principles and all your Jesus, all of that you got going on, or this chick from Norway who set up and set her children up, and her future generations up. Who's the stupid one? You see what I'm saying? Like, absolutely. we gotta just like stop with this religious, social, cultural, Blackistan mess that we are brainwashed with, that we don't have a right to look out for ourselves. And if we
Absolutely.
do, then we're being a gold digger and we're being materialistic and ridiculous. This world is material. If it wasn't material, we'd all be invisible.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And we got to get away from this concept of everything I have to offer should be free just
Right.
because. Got to
Just
get away.
because.
Just
Just
because.
because.
Yeah.
You
We got
know,
to go
love
that
is
mind.
free. You
Mm-hmm.
know, nothing, what is it they say? Love is what is it, the stupid thing? I've even forgotten it. I erased it from my contract. I don't even know. There's some stupid thing we say, money can't buy you love or whatever.
Yeah.
Bitch, it can buy me happiness because I will damn sure be happy on some island
You take that
somewhere
money,
with
go
some
look for
money
love.
and then go
Money
look for love. Like
take
I
that
will
money,
be
go look
happy
for
with
love.
it.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
It's unbelievable. But I am so glad that we had this conversation because at least she was able at 19 years old to do what most 60-year-old women can't do, which is place a value on their worth.
On
Whatever
and
skill set
60
they
and
have,
broke.
whatever their cost,
Yes.
to say, this is what I want from my life. This is not the value of me being alive, but this is my worth. This is my
Right.
worth. This is
Right.
what it's going to take to not, to keep me in a state that I don't have to become another cute creature or man
Right.
or overwork myself or, not get myself taken care of because I'm sacrificing for somebody else. So on that street, I'm glad. I mean, to me, the average 19-year-old would not have been able to make that decision. At least she was smart enough to
Absolutely
know
not.
I have a value and this is my worth. To me, this is my
Absolutely
worth.
not. Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then if we add, so that is like, I might have to save that for another thing, but the burning last question that I had, and I expected this to be a 30-minute conversation, which of course it never is. But and you can tell me whether or not we need to like save this for another moment, but would you actually share that information with your growing girls to say that? Because nobody's heard of this. I mean, I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to say nobody. I would say probably 99.8% of the, globe's population has not heard of selling your vagina. I mean, for real though. So, is that something with our mindset of global wealth, of setting yourself up, of understanding the competitive nature that is the world of finances and the constant changing? Would that be something that you would, not saying that you would steer them towards, but would you even mention that as, hey, this happened?
I would.
This is not, not to say that, because
I would.
children are running across
Right.
everything on the internet right now. But, and then I would
Absolutely.
even take it so far as, because some people will say, oh, you're pimping your daughters. Oh my God, but would that be something that you would mention to them? If not a quality marriage, consider this.
My girls are 5 and 3, and we already have a daily routine of self-care.
Mm-hmm.
What's expected. They understand that when we talk about relationships, is when I get married, is the preface that we go into our relationship talks with. So even at 5 and 3, we're talking about, my daughter says, well, mommy, she's playing with her dolls. When I get married, I'm going to do my doll's hair like this, with my baby like this. Well, I don't allow them to talk about relationships without talking about marriage first.
Right.
I
Right.
also, my daughters, all three of us have a daily routine of self-care, from our hair to our skin to taking care of ourselves, lotion. Like, I make them go through the whole thing of, taking care of their skin and back. So we talk about their worth, even at 5 and 3. It's just we actually discuss not necessarily, okay, what's the numerical value, but I always coach them and talk them through, you know, women, it's our responsibility to take care of ourselves. We can't let our, you know, legs get all ashy, we put our lotions on. Like, I walk them through the process of creating value for themselves. So whenever they're
Right.
in the company of someone and they try to rush them, you know, we don't have time for lotion, or we don't have time for oil on your hair, or they're like, wait a minute, this is part of what I do. So I don't want them to ever become comfortable like I did with not taking care of
Right.
myself. So as a
Right.
mother, that worth conversation would come up as they mature. We would definitely have that worth conversation. Now, as far as virginity, and I know how I would approach that. But I'm that parent that try to share everything with my children. So if we are like, if they're like 19, 18 years old, and this turns into a fad and they want to discuss it, I will definitely discuss it with them. I would not run
Mm-hmm.
from the issue. I
Right.
wouldn't run from the issue, and I would not judge them if that's something that they decided to do. I
Right.
wouldn't. Yeah. Yeah. Because
And I mean, I go ahead.
to me, the most important thing is for my daughters to have an innate natural value on themselves.
Right.
And what they decide to do with that value when they're of legal age is on them. But I want to coach them through the process of creating high value even when they are small. So no,
Mm.
any man that comes into their life won't be able to talk them out of care for themselves and being able to financially set their homes up. No man would, you know, sweet talk them into, you know, well, I'm just, you know, I don't want to work. I think no. So I'm
Nope.
always at this age coaching them through the process. We actually, you know, put the oils in their hair at nighttime, plait their hair up. Like, it's a whole process. Because as you get older, the world will tell you you don't have time to do these things, or these
Yes.
things have no value.
Yes.
But if it's
Yes.
routine, if bath time is routine, if taking care of themselves is routine, then they will take that into their womanhood. So a man that alters that, they would know automatically, this is not a potential mate for me.
Right. Or it
Yeah.
will feel so uncomfortable that something's wrong. You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
it will trigger. And so that is valuable because, again, as much as I talk about taking your time, taking time out for yourself, you know, that I have to be vigilant on that. And so
Right.
I'm very thankful, you know, that you shared that with me. And I mean, I'm in complete agreement, which is, you know, the last discussion that we wanted to have. I mean, I would much rather 100% honest. I would much rather my daughters have 2.5 million
Mm-hmm.
than go sneak off somewhere with some little boy in their ear talking about some nonsense or whatever and
Mm-hmm.
get, you know, get the business taken
Mm-hmm.
care of. And they just, it's it. That's
Mm-hmm.
it. That is, you know, when I watched a TED talk by this sister, and I do want to post it later. This sister she has Nigerian parents, but she was born in the States. But
Mm-hmm.
she is 33 years old. I think she's on, what show is that? She's on some show. Gorgeous sister from Nigeria, but she's 33 and she's still a virgin,
Mm-hmm.
completely unheard of right now. And she had a gorgeous talk, and so I did plan to do a YouTube on that. But it's out there. Like, it's possible that women can either nurture and save their virginity and not buy into the whole pop culture of, oh, I have to be, you know, 15, 16 in the bleachers somewhere because some boy is pressuring me and because I want to be cool because everybody else is not a virgin anymore. There's that whole, again, get your children to travel, get them visiting
Yes.
the world, have them to do your rituals, as you had said, groom
Yes.
them. But how can you do that? How can you have those rituals if you are stressed, if you are running on survival mode, if
Yeah.
you are on fumes, if you haven't even taken your own damn bath? How can
Mm-hmm.
you get them, You know what I'm saying? Like it's a whole lifestyle. Taking care of yourself is a lifestyle. And so to be honest, I would much rather, if they're not going to wait until they're a marriage, a proper marriage, not with some scrub where they are the man in the relationship, but a proper marriage with somebody who's really going to just take care of them, treat them as the, the wonderful princess woman that they are. If it's
Right.
not that, get your money, honey, because listen, you could set up your business, you could do your life, and it doesn't mean you have to do anything even after that. But that was
Right.
like 20 minutes, because some old rich man from wherever, it's going to be 20 minutes, if that.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's harsh to say and all of that, but all of y'all on these Disneyland fantasy storylines that y'all got going on,
Mm-hmm.
it still didn't serve you because it was
Right.
still 20 minutes because it was a 16-year
Absolutely.
old boy who didn't know what he was doing. And then you still gave it away for free and you have
Mhm.
nothing to show for it. And you still broke to this day.
Right.
Meanwhile, if she's smart and she had, the proper grooming and education, she had that money growing for her. You know what
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying? Like she had that money growing for her. So it was well worth it to
Right.
me.
Right.
Y'all can think it's crass all you want, but I've
Right.
been done with the whole social religious BS that has
Right.
women broke and giving their value and their stuff away for free when so many men clearly it's valued. It's
Right.
$2.5 million worth value. I mean, come on. You know
Wow.
what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
2.5 million at
Mm-hmm.
19 years old.
Mm-hmm. And we got folks sneaking off in the bleachers. Doesn't make any sense. Who
Not
knows?
whatsoever.
Who knows? It could possibly turn into a trend. Who knows? Who knows?
Don't have me set up a website. Just-
Who knows? So I mean, who knows what the future may hold?
oh
You
my
know?
gosh.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, in this world of Bitcoin and information, things just all electronic. Come on.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So at least she got her little not little, her 2.5 million
Little.
and at 19 years old. So, but she was at least smart enough to command the value for it and got it. So that was
And got
that
it.
and got it. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh my gosh. Well, sis, I know it's late. What time is it? I don't want to keep you. I know that we have been on. I'm gonna have to upload this to my YouTube channel, but it has
Okay.
been once again a phenomenal experience. I hope you all have enjoyed it. And, once again, I encourage you all to share for those who may, really enjoy the conversation, who may enjoy the experience of the, enlivened conversation about up leveling, leveling up, high standards, value, doing everything that you can in order to, what do we say? Reclaim our time.
Yes,
and,
absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
reclaim our femininity, like for real though.
Yeah.
Reclaim it. I don't care what age you're at, reclaim it and do you and get the value that you're worth no matter what age you're at. You are valuable, you are worthy. There are people all over the world who value you, who value your experience, your insight, your energy, your
Yes.
play, everything that is about you. Like you are valuable, and there's no reason for us to be sitting over here, um, just waddling in the mud. There's absolutely no
Yeah.
reason.
I agree 100%. There's no reason. It requires that we make a shift. We can either keep beating and toting and dragging and kicking the same dog, or not to make that correlation to anybody that's human, but we can keep doing the same thing and not shift, or we can change up the game and
Absolutely.
create some options. So, absolutely, I'm 100% in agreement.
Well, I'm so thankful, sis, because I know your time is valuable. If you're not here, You are, making your money work for you, residual income and all the things that you're doing. So I really appreciate your taking the time because I had this hot topic, called you out of nowhere and said, I need you to get on Facebook Live because I got
It
this
was
thing I
fun
want to
though.
discuss with you,
It was fun. So
you know,
yeah, it was fun.
and I'm so glad. And, for those who are listening, I told her that I'm not even telling you what the topic is. I just want you to hop on and I'm just
Yeah.
gonna throw this at you. It was ridiculous. I said
It
I'm just gonna throw it at you.
Yeah, it was all good though. We need those moments of just being authentic, and I love it. So I appreciate you inviting me on.
Well, absolutely. And again, you all please share. And I'm going to add all the links to the article, to the YouTube channel, and the various things that we've been discussing, as well as Sister Portia's page, her various pages. And let's get this work, y'all. Let's elevate, let's upgrade, and let's have no fear. Let's be unapologetic about reclaiming our feminine nature, our feminine graces, and everything that we deserve. We are worthy, we are worth it, and we just have to step outside of the box and have the courage to do what we need to do to give ourselves the life that we deserve.
Yes.
And peace. All right, sis, I'm going to close
Good night.
out and I will call you shortly.
All right, that'll
All
work.
right.
Okay.
Okay,
Bye.
peace.